dignity and not just American ideals, they are universal aspirations.
I look forward to working with South African leaders, innovators, and communities to amplify what is best in both our nations. More than 500 American companies are proudly invested in South Africa's growth. Thousands of Americans live and work here, drawn by this country's energy and potential. We face challenges, yes, and some are serious, but strong relationships are built not on the weight of those challenges, but on the power of shared purpose.
Recapping the top story, Northwest businessman Brown Mokgotsi says he received information from alleged criminal kingpin Thulasizwe Simelane before he infiltrated the Independent Police Investigative Directorate as an informant. He testified before Parliament's ad hoc committee. For SF News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines soccer action. Devon Titus scoring late as Stellenbosch stunned Kaizer Chiefs ahead of the Soweto derby. And in cricket, a supercomputer predicts the Proteas will win the T20 World Cup. We'll have details at around 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Couple of broken down vehicles on the Gauteng Highway network. One going north between Malabongwe and Winnie Mandela. Another on the R21 to watch out for southbound, just around Benoni off ramp if you're on your way to the airport. Durban, the N2 going north has a stationary vehicle just through Spaghetti Junction. If that's there too much longer, that's going to cut in and cause some problems again this morning. Cliffdale Key Ridge still looking okay for Durban, Pietermaritzburg travel. No problems there. Cape Town building up on the N2 inbound from Khayelitsha. The N1 coming in from Brackenfell. Belleville starting to fill up with traffic through to about the Plattercliff Road exit, so just coming down the hill there from Belleville, looking slow. And we'll keep an eye on Marine Drive for you out of Tableview. Last night the lights were down at Dolphin Beach, causing big problems going inbound. We'll see how that shapes coming out of the region this morning. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
The clock has just struck 8 minutes after 6. Today is Wednesday, the 25th of February, 2026, live and direct from Auckland Park in Johannesburg. This is SAFM. We are on 104 to 107 nationwide. The world you're waking up to this morning is significantly different from what it was when you went to bed last night. And it's our raison d'etre. That's our very reason for existence, why we get here bright and early each weekday morning to fully brief you of all of those consequential news and current affairs developments that will be shaping your world today. Welcome to it, the Wednesday edition. Morning brief. Among some of what we will tell you, we are following up and following on the reporting of Amapungane Center for Investigative Journalism about the story of Tongaat Hewlett and its looming collapse and looming liquidation. Certainly, as far as the business rescue practitioners are concerned, they will be making that application on the 27th of this month for the provisional liquidation of Tongaat Hewlett's after about 37 months in business rescue. Well, at the center of that story is the Vision Sugar Consortium, Vision Group, accused by critics in that reporting that we've told you about over the last few days, accused by critics of turning a business rescue into what one analyst calls, quote-unquote, a kind of corporate hijacking. The consortium, led by Robert Gumede and Rute Moyo, acquired 11.73 billion rand in bank debt, and we are told this happened at a discount. And then the reporting goes on to say that on the 8th of February, it triggered immediate repayment, effectively lighting the fuse on what rivals describe as a debt bomb that now threatens liquidation and thousands of livelihoods in KwaZulu-Natal's sugar belt. Allegations laid out also in some of that reporting include suggestions that Vision may have overstated its access to funding during the decisive 2024 creditors vote, including questions over a Standard Bank proof of funds letter that underpinned the rescue plan that was then on the table, as put on the table by the Vision Group. We did undertake yesterday, and I must say, give credit where it's due, while we were on air and talking to Sam Soul from Amapungane, Robert Gumete himself, the businessman, reached out to us and said, I would love to be heard on that story. So we've lined it up and we've set it up to get the perspective of the Vision Sugar Consortium from the man himself, Robert Gumete. He will join me. He'll be my guest at about 7:10 to talk about their role, how they first came into the picture around Tongaat Hulets and what their role has been, and also to respond, of course, to some of the allegations that have come forth in that reporting. So other than that, I must say that you can sum up this morning's show by saying that we have Budget 2026 on our minds this morning. Not just the numbers that the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, will talk to when he takes to the podium tomorrow, in fact, later on today. But what those numbers, is it later on today? Budget? Wednesday, Thursday? One is Wednesday, the other is Thursday, between State of the Nation and the budget. Anyway, when he takes to the podium in Parliament to deliver the Budget 2026. But what those numbers will mean for municipalities on the brink, schools under strain, and clinics battling to serve the majority of South Africans. So what we will do is, at 7:10, we'll speak to Thabiso Ndebele, Revenue Consulting Managing Director at Ntiyiso Consulting, about some of the themes that we will cover in that conversation. Will include the 54 billion rand incentive for metros announced in the State of the Nation address. You remember, the president makes the announcements and then it's up to the finance minister to make those announcements a reality by putting money where the government's mouth is, in a manner of speaking. So we'll explore whether Treasury is likely to back it with credible allocations and what safeguards are going to be needed to prevent corruption and, some of the money ending up not being accounted for fully in terms of its effectiveness for the purpose that it's meant for. So 7:10, I'm in conversation with Thabiso Ndebele from Ntiyiso Consulting. 8:10, we speak to Daniel Peter Al-Nadaf, legal researcher at Equal Education Law Center, and we'll be unpacking what austerity has meant for basic education. It's a story that you hear all the time on this show when we speak to various people. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I think about 2 weeks ago, speaking to Steve Mabona from the Gauteng Education Department, I even suggested to him that he has a tone of resignation about him that says, this is where we are. We're stymied by austerity. Some of the things we see, we can't do anything about. You know the story about KZN and the battles that they've faced because of austerity within the education system. So Daniel Peter Al-Nadaf from Equal Education will talk to me about that. From declining real per learner funding and pressure on provincial budgets to reports of unlawful compulsory donations in no-fee schools and strain on the National School Nutrition Program. All of that we will cover in that conversation at 8:10. And then at 8:45, we'll speak to Linda Dunkley, who's Managing Director at Community Development Non-Profit Organization Khiza Babuile. And we'll be talking about healthcare and the implications also of austerity in healthcare funding. So the morning brief team is also at full steam this morning, at full strength once again this morning, but also your calls on 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. With that said, let's get into it then. The first hour of the morning brief on this Wednesday starts now.
In 2025, Liberty paid out 48 million rand in education cover claims to 755 families, meaning...
So many kids still went to school?
Correct.
Even when the dog ate their homework?
Yep.
What if it rained so hard that even fish needed raincoats?
School's still on.
But why?
Because there's no negotiation when it comes to protecting your child's tomorrow. Even if you become disabled or pass away, Liberty, in it with you. Liberty Group Limited, a licensed life insurer and authorized FSP and part of the Standard Bank Group. T's and C's, risks and limitations apply.
All Scholar Transport operators are required to comply with the following mandatory requirements. All required licenses and certificates must be renewed annually for minibus taxis and biannually for buses in accordance with applicable regulations. Overloaded, unroadworthy, or unlicensed vehicles will be impounded without exception. Every vehicle must be equipped with an appropriate and fully stocked first aid kit at all times. Routine safety inspections are compulsory for all vehicles providing Scholar Transport services. Compliance with these requirements is non-negotiable and is enforced to safeguard the lives of learners and all road users. Issued by the National Department of Transport.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SFM Radio.
16 minutes after 6, let's get it started with Melissa Buta and the morning brief in brief. Melissa, good morning. Some serious concern coming out late yesterday about a fire at Cape Town International Airport. What's the airport's company South Africa saying about that situation this morning?
Good morning to Thulasizwe. So Airports Company South Africa says operations at Cape Town International Airport are gradually returning to normal after a fire broke out in the northern service yard, which is said to be part of the international terminal on Tuesday morning. The fire was quickly extinguished and parts of the international terminal were evacuated as precaution due to smoke. All passengers and staff were safely evacuated. The incident caused power outages and disrupted network and IT systems, affecting airline offices, passenger processing, and airport Wi-Fi. The international departures were temporarily suspended and some incoming flights were diverted, but departures have since resumed. Delays and schedule changes are expected. Domestic flights face minor disruptions, with some delays continuing as systems stabilize. Passengers are advised to check the AXA mobile app and contact their airlines for updated flight information.
So the whole story around the National Health Insurance and its implementation has been something of a political as well as a legal minefield. And I suppose it's safe to say that President Cyril Ramaphosa is choosing to tread carefully over that minefield.
Yes, indeed. So President Cyril Ramaphosa has agreed to delay the implementation of the National Health Insurance Act until the Constitutional Court of South Africa rules on several legal challenges. The court is set to hear the matter between the 5th and the 7th of May this year. Various organizations have challenged the act, mainly over concerns about the public participation process. Presidency spokesperson Vincent Mangwenya said Ramaphosa and Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi agreed to hold off on proclaiming sections of the Act until the court's judgment. However, government preparations for NHI implementation will continue. The NHI signed into law in May 2024. It aims to provide universal, free healthcare, but has faced criticism over its potential impact on private healthcare and concerns about corruption. Government maintains it remains committed to implementing the policy in line with legal processes. So we will have to wait and see what the outcome becomes in May.
And we touched on this story last week, the findings of this study by the University of the Free State and that report into chemicals found in several sanitary pad and panty liner brands. That was always going to have consequences, wasn't it?
Of course. So South Africa's National Consumer Commission has launched an investigation into several sanitary pad and panty liner brands after a University of the Free State report found harmful chemicals in 9 tested products. The affected brands include Kotex, Always, WeFlow, Stay Free, and Lillet. The report found that products contain a chemical linked to hormonal imbalances, infertility, endometriosis, and cancer. Acting Commissioner Hardeen Rashisusu said the investigation will assess whether suppliers are complying with the Consumer Protection Act, particularly regarding the quality and safety of goods sold to consumers. There's been quite a lot of discourse on social media about this, so hopefully we do see the results of this investigation quite soon.
All right, thank you for that. That's Melissa Buta with the morning brief in brief for this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the morning brief Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
On the weather front, here's what the South African Weather Service wants you to know. Pretoria and Johannesburg will have the following weather conditions. They'll have morning fog patches in places, otherwise partly cloudy. The minimum temperature in Pretoria will be 16 and the maximum 29. In Johannesburg, 14 to 27. Vereeniging will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 27. Mbombela will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 32. Polokwane, Mahikeng, Vryburg, Bloemfontein, Kimberley and Uppington will be partly cloudy. That will be the prevailing conditions in those cities. Polokwane will be starting at a minimum of 16 and a maximum of 31. Mahikeng 14 to 30, Vryburg 13 to 29, Bloemfontein 15 to 27, Kimberley 15 to 28 and Uppington 18 to 30. Cape Town will be partly cloudy with a chance of light rain with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 24. George, partly cloudy, 18 to 25. Gqeberha, partly cloudy, 18 to 23. Gugompo City, formerly East London, will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 19 and a maximum of 25. Durban will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 22 to 29. Richards Bay will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 24 to 30. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog, otherwise partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 17 to 27.
Akudlalwa kudlalwa ngempela. Amakhosi collides with ezimnyama ngenkani. Soweto will roar. Mzansi will feel it. Only one will rise. Every tackle, every pass, every goal could define the season. This is the Betway Premiership. Listen, Kazini, forever. Catch the Soweto Derby. Kaizer Chiefs versus Orlando Pirates on Saturday, 28 February at 2 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3:30 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
23 minutes after 6, a diplomatic dispute erupting between the United States and France after Charles Kushner, the U.S. ambassador in Paris, failed to attend a formal summons from French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot. The meeting was called following controversial comments by the U.S. Embassy regarding the death of French activist Quentin Duranc, whose killing in Lyon has intensified political tensions in France. In response to Kushner's absence, France has moved to block him from direct access to government ministers, marking a rare public rebuke of a U.S. envoy. Let's speak to Itumeleng Makgetla, political analyst at the University of Pretoria. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Is this a minor diplomatic skirmish or is there context and backdrop that says we should sit up and pay attention to what's happening here?
Good morning, Mr. Simelane, and your listeners as well. I think there is a bit of a backdrop as we can take into cognizance the developments between the French government and the United States government pertaining to the incident that happened about 2-3 months ago relating to the same ambassador, Mr. Charles, His Excellency Charles Kushner, that the French government was not doing enough to curtail the scourge of anti-Semitism. That created a diplomatic furore, and not long after that, it was followed by the discord between the French president and President Donald Trump with regards to the comments about that the French president would not survive the upcoming French elections that are due next month. So I think there is a breakdown, a gradual breakdown of relations between these two nations. And it is quite disconcerting because these two countries are meant to be celebrating 250 years of diplomatic relations with each other that coincides with the celebrations of the signing of the U.S. Constitution later this year that was signed in 1787. So there is a gradual degradation that is happening between these two countries, and I think these utterances just seem to be making the situation worse.
So, talk to one or two other elements as well. The implications of the preference for communication via social media that seems to be prevalent, at least in the current administration in the United States, and how that translates from positions held obviously by the State Department, and naturally so, that when a position is held by the State Department, everyone within that line, that chain of command, including ambassadors, will hold that line of thinking. In this case, we're talking about this perception in Washington that the death of this activist, Durang, that it's linked to what they're calling violent radical leftism. And naturally, that then becomes repeated, if not parroted, by those who are in the context, in this case, the French ambassador. What are the implications of that kind of diplomacy that involves a strong social media presence, including on issues that the host country, in this case France, considers to be sensitive domestic issues?
I think the prevalence of this social media diplomacy, as we've gotten to really dub it in recent years, particularly with the coming of Mr. Trump for his second term. It's an unconventional way of doing business, diplomatic business, compared to the traditional way of really being tactful and really prudent in terms of doing inter or bilateral or even multilateral political relations of that level. So I think the one thing that I can probably think what is happening here. I mean, we can even hear just by the name of this particular ambassador, Charles Kushner. Um, he is, in fact, the father of the father of the son-in-law of Mr. Trump himself. So the inner he's in an inner circle that will echo the sentiments of the central person who is the president of the United States. I think it is a situation that is most probably exemplified by a writer in the 18th century called Gaetano Mosca, who called it in French "la position déjà prise," meaning that the nepotism in the parlance of our times. And in those circles, when you stack a cabinet with people that are so close to you, it is hardly surprising that they would be in fact amplifying your personal view, even though it means that the stakes are so high in international relations, as we have seen also with South Africa. The sacking of the former ambassador, Mr. Rasool, was also almost done in the same particular fashion, but the ramifications were real, and this is redefining the code of diplomacy, and I personally do not think it's a good way. Is a good way to go forward.
So this latest diplomatic skirmish, as we are reporting, just talk to how it's emblematic of even traditional alliances being tested, their resilience being tested. I mean, there's some significance to the relationship between the United States and France, including, of course, the French having gifted the Americans the Statue of Liberty all those many years ago.
Yes, absolutely. Remember when the Constitution of the United States was signed in 1787. France was one of the first countries to sign a diplomatic relations with the U.S. to really cement a commitment of a long-term future. And America was very, very, very excited at this particular prospect because they wanted to make a statement of breaking away from the British. And over these years, for the past 250 years, this relationship has been quite cordial. and it seems something quite odd in terms of the proximity of these two nations. But in international relations, we know that enemies do not always remain enemies, and friends do not always remain friends. I mean, look at the instance of the Battle of Waterloo between the British Allied forces and the Anglo-Allied forces in the 18th century that deposed Napoleon, and in the wake thereof, also ending a two-decade European war. You look at Germany and Britain. Germany and Britain, sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're not. Now the relations are hot, and then they're not. They're cold. It is a normal in terms of world politics. However, when we zoom into these two particular countries, it is something quite odd.
All right.
And quite recently, I mean, before the whole tariff war and all the rest of it, the relationship between President Trump, and President Emmanuel Macron was actually quite cordial. There was a bit of sort of affection, signs of affection going on, but everything has changed. The bromance, of course, as we know it.
Yeah. All right, thank you for your time this morning and fascinating insights there. Itumeleng Makhetla is a political analyst at the University of Pretoria. Let's go straight to Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will take the nation into his confidence today as to how National Treasury plans to raise additional revenue and allocate its limited resources to many of government's priorities. Northwest businessman Brown Mukhotsi says he received information from alleged criminal kingpin Thulasizwe Simelane before he infiltrated the Independent Police Investigative Directorate as an informant. And suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner General Shedrick Sibiya has told the Matlanga Commission that he does not know why businessman and taxi boss Steve Mutsumi has been referred to as a dangerous man. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy through Crown interchange in Joburg. The Mike 1 under pressure coming in from Gold Reef City up to about Smith Street. Behind that, the M2 badly backed up already. Early days, pushing a queue back as far as Joe Slovo. So there's obviously an issue getting up through Crown and through the double decker as you work you out through the Bramfontein area towards Parktown. Also, the Mike 1 South, some roadworks between Greyston and Corlett coming through Sandton into Melrose, backlogging there. Delays going out of Clayville on Olifantsfontein. No traffic lights still at Pretoria Road if you're leaving Clayville out towards the R21. Sizable backlog to work through there. Durban this morning got a breakdown now on the southbound M2. We had one earlier this morning going north near Westwood Mall. That's thankfully been cleared, but it's been replaced very quickly with a breakdown southbound after Umgeta Road towards Spaghetti Junction. So traffic really starting to pile up on the run into 4 level. And Cape Town this morning just seems like a fairly busy morning. Traffic volumes are high. N1 from Brackenfell to Sable Roads all jammed up. The M2 inbound from Khayelitsha towards the airport is slow, and then the other side of the airport through to Mowbray Main. And even the M5 is full of traffic. Just you'll pick up delays between Southfield Parkwood and the exit to the N2 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So earlier on, I was talking to Melissa about the minefield, political minefield. Sometimes our football feels like that, like a minefield. After a result, you don't know what tone to take because, the sensitivities, you don't want to be stepping on those minefields. So I don't know. Just let's put it very basically. Talk to me about what happened. Stellenbosch, Amakosi, what transpired?
Well,
See, I'm as neutral as I can be, so that there's no reading of any glee in my tone.
Did you say minefield? I'm just thinking
It's
one wrong
minefield.
step and boom. It's literally boom to us. Points gone.
People are sensitive. What happened?
Yeah. I mean, it's about who handles the pressure most. And like you said, it is a minefield. Let's keep it on the straight and narrow. But Kaizer Chiefs, title ambitions, suffering a setback last night. 2-1 was their defeat to Stellenbosch at FNB Stadium. Amakosi led at the break through Flavio Silva, who converted Glody Lelepo's cross, but Stellies responded strongly in the second half. We'll hear from the Stellies coach, and that's Gavin Hunt, he credited Chumani Butsaka as the difference in that victory.
I think there's a lot he's got to do still in terms of both sides of the ball, with the ball, without the ball. So it's an ongoing thing. He's a top goal scorer, which is magnificent from his perspective. But for me, I think he could be so much better. Every day there's an ongoing thing working with him. I thought the player that changed the game tonight was Chumani Butsaka. I thought he was the difference in the game in both teams in the second half. And there's another one, really good player and somebody that's good, can do so much more for us. Yeah, but Major, he's got to improve in certain areas, and he will do. We'll work with him,
Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns returned to the summit of the Betway Premiership. Marcelo Allende's 84th minute strike secured a 1-0 win over Amazulu in Durban. Masanawana are level on 38 points with Pirates, but edge ahead on goals scored. Amazulu remain fifth on 30 points. In the UEFA Champions League knockout playoffs, Atletico Madrid trashed Club Brugge 4-1 to seal a 7-4 aggregate victory and book their place in the last 16. Bayer Leverkusen advanced after a goalless draw with Olympiacos. They secured a 2-0 aggregate win. Inter Milan crashed out after a 2-1 home defeat, and that was to Bodo Glimt, losing 5-2 on aggregate. And Newcastle edging Karabakh 3-2 to complete a dominant 9-3 aggregate triumph. Now, cricket action last night. England are through to the T20 World Cup semi-finals after a 2-wicket win over Pakistan in Palakkele. Chasing 165, Captain Harry Brooks smashed a superb maiden T20 international century of just 50 balls to anchor the innings. England reached 166 for 8 with 5 balls to spare. And finally, a supercomputer is tipping South Africa to win the T20 World Cup. The prediction has the Proteas meeting host India in a repeat of the 2024 final, with South Africa winning it this time by a narrow margin. It also forecasts semi-finals of India versus New Zealand and South Africa against England. And that's your sport. We'll be predicting more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling Lechela for the first update of the morning. Ndauling, good morning. Let's start in the United States. Tell me about consumer confidence and the direction it headed in February.
Morning, Tula. So consumer confidence over in the US improved in February, with the latest survey showing sentiment rose more than economists had expected, increasing to 91.2 points, while January's reading was revised higher. Now, the rebound was largely driven by younger consumers and higher income earning households. Despite the headline improvement, concerns about the labor market continued to intensify. The share of respondents saying jobs are hard to get climbed to a 5-year high, raising the risk that the unemployment rate could edge up in the near term. At the same time, more consumers said jobs were plentiful, leaving the survey's labor market differential only slightly improved. Now, that, of course, an important measure for the Fed, as it is keeping a close eye on the direction of the labor market. Now, this time when the narrative of a resilient US consumer is increasingly being questioned, as recent retail sales data has come in softer than expected, and several major retailers, including Walmart and Home Depot, have warned of more challenging trading conditions ahead.
So a deal between Meta, and this AMD about AI chips. What's that about?
Yes. So Meta Platforms, the parent company to the likes of Facebook and Instagram, has signed a new chip deal with Advanced Micro Devices, also known as AMD. This as it ramps up spending on AI. Now, the Facebook owner says it will use AMD's AI chips in its data centers over the years, deploying enough computing power to support its expanding AI tools and services. Now, the first batch of the new chips is expected to arrive later this year. This announcement comes just a week after Meta committed to using millions of processors from NVIDIA, showing it is spreading its bets as competition in AI intensifies. Now, as part of the agreement, Meta could also take a stake in AMD, depending on how much equipment it needs, or rather, it ends up buying. The deal is seen as a boost for AMD, which is trying to challenge NVIDIA's dominance in the AI chip market.
So lastly, Ndauling, recap for us how we closed yesterday and how we are starting the day today.
Stateside markets staging a recovery overnight after a downbeat start to the week. The tech-heavy Nasdaq led the gains, closing 1% higher following the Meta AMD deal, which was viewed as market positive. Investors on that front also digesting President Trump's State of the Union, aka SONA, on that front. That risk on mood playing out over in the US also filtered through to local markets, with the JSE mostly in positive territory. Metal prices, however, eased, weighing on the Resi 10, and this resulted in a flat finish, with the all share eking out gains up 0.09%. The rand, in the meantime, on firmer footing ahead of the national budget. It's trading at 15.93 to the dollar, 21.54 to the pound, and 18.79 to the euro. Oil remains range bound, with investors awaiting tomorrow's talks between the US and Iran. Crude trading just above $70 a barrel this morning. And lastly, it's green screens across Asia, fueled by a tech rally that started on Wall Street, which has spilled over to AI-related stocks in Hong Kong and Japan.
All right, thank you for that, Ndauling. We'll touch base with you once again for the second update just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, let's start in Ghana. A few days ago, you were talking about how the day of the coup in 1966 against Kwame Nkrumah is considered the National Day of Shame. This time around, just after marking that day, the government in Ghana is doing something about it.
Fresh morning, Thulas and Jumbo Africa. Indeed, Thulas, it was yesterday on our historical archive, if you can recall, 24th of February, almost 6 decades. But you can see how a historical archive, Thulas, shapes the present current politics in Accra. Now, the international airport in Ghana is named Kotoka International Airport. That name comes from Emmanuel Kotoka, a senior army officer who was involved in the removal of Nkrumah 6 decades ago. Now, yesterday, the government of Ghana pushed to say we are going back to the original name to become Accra International Airport to present a more neutral national identity. That decision has quickly divided the public opinion to us, raising questions about history, democracy, and national recognition. Others are saying the name of this man to us, it still brings all those bad memories, how Nkrumah was removed in power. But others are saying whether you change the name or not to us, the airlines will still be moving in and out of Accra, but it will have changed the name from Kotoka International Airport to Accra International Airport.
From there, let's go to South Sudan in Juba. Tell me about the expulsion of the finance minister. He wasn't in office for long, was he?
Just only for 90 days, so we don't know how Salva Kiir are pushing this, but others are saying it was not only that removal this week of the finance minister, it was also the Commissioner General of National Revenue Authority. Others are saying since Salva Kiir is not certain to us, he's trying to maintain the power because of the current armed conflict that is going on. Now, the minister that he has removed, Thulas, he was just appointed 3 months ago, like I said, after he has fired Asin Diang Asin. Now he has appointed Salvatore Garang, also who was a former finance minister in 2018 and 2020. Now Garang, an economist trained at the University of Khartoum, is the new finance minister. Even if he had some allegations of corruption, he has not come out clear about them. But Salva Kiir, he's reshuffling Thulas, and others are saying it's a tension in the presidency.
And this figure from the M23 in the DRC is someone that we came to know during that, at the peak of the crisis, at the beginning of last year. Willie Ngoma has been killed.
Willie has been killed yesterday, Tulas, and what is strange is that Lawrence Kanyuka, before the death of Ngoma, he was already on the Twitter street saying that Kinshasa is violating the ceasefire agreement by unleashing the total war, and he was talking about the bombings that was going on in the mining town of Rubaya. That's where Willie Ngoma was killed yesterday. Tulas, others are saying it's going to raise tensions in the current confrontation between Ngoma and Kinshasa. Now, William Ngoma is no more. Tulas, one will ask, will the ceasefire hold? What will happen to the Doha process, the AU process, the SADC process? What will happen to the DRC once we have removed one of the oppositions and coming from the M23 rebel group?
Yeah, and he's that man that was the main spokesperson, isn't he? The one that was front-facing towards the world in terms of speaking on behalf of the M23.
Plus, both of them with Cornelia Nanga, but William Ngoma, you can see, was behind the scenes, but also vocal during the Battle of Goma in 2025. But now he's no more. But Cornelia Nanga and people like Lawrence Kanyuka, those are the faces of M23.
Yeah. Arthur Ashe is a name that resonates in this country for many reasons. And I think in Soweto there's a center that is named after Arthur Ashe. Talk to me about Arthur Ashe and your historical archive, 25 February 1971.
Tulas, 55 years ago, when this best African tennis player, Arthur Ashe, as you have mentioned, he was refused a visa application by the U.S. to come and play in the national champions at Ellis Park in April 1971. And also, Tulas, this was said because he wanted to use what I always call the soft power of sports diplomacy. Was denied that, but only in 1973, Tulas, he was allowed to come back because South Africa wanted to return to the Olympics. And he said that one of the issues that he wanted to come was to break down the stereotypes and the issue of the integration and bringing change in the then apartheid South Africa. So this is the power of sports, Tulas. It's not only politics. You can use sports, you can use culture to change the mindset of the oppressors. And that's how Arthur Ashe was trying to use the power of tennis during that time. Asante Sana Tulas is still leading the true conversation.
All right, Sipho, thank you for that. Asante Sana. That's Sipho Mandula there with your Africa update for this morning.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
When music meets nature, something unforgettable happens. Symphony by the Water, a world-class live music experience set against the breathtaking beauty of Midmar Dam, featuring the KZN Philharmonic Orchestra, Spogazi, the Black Lapels, Saturday, the 7th of March, 2026. Day tickets from $150. Evening tickets from $350. Tickets available at WebTicket and Pick and Pay. Symphony by the Waters, where sound flows.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a very important note. If you need to drive through northern parts of Limpopo today, the N1 at the Favut tunnels will be closed. Now, the information we're receiving says it's northbound, just the northbound side for truck crash recovery. So just keep that in mind. If you need to get up from Polokwane to Messina or through Makalo to Messina, the Favut tunnels closed from 8:30 this morning on the northbound side. So you might want to get a bit of a move on and get through there before that road is just closed quite a lengthy detour if you arrive there during the closure period. Joburg this morning, bit of a surprise set of roadworks going on the Mike 1 South near Corler Drive. That's already pushed a heavy queue back to Woodmead. Looks like being a real schlep to get through that Woodmead into Melrose this morning. The Mike 1 and M2 route to the Crown, fairly heavy delays all the way through to Empire Road, and there's a bit of a backlog coming in on the N12, the southern or the Potchefstroom Highway. If you're coming up from Protea Glen, just approaching the Golden Highway exit at Eldorado Park, very slow going through there. Durban, the N2 running southbound, a broken down vehicle still with us before Spaghetti Junction. That's pushing traffic back through Umgeda Road. Other side going north is quite slow, but that's normal into the roadworks. Also backlog before you even get there. The N2 from Tweeny Hill up towards Prospecton looking pretty sluggish today. Cape Town, the Hindle Road through Blue Downs is very slow going between Saxtown and Westbank Main. Strand Road and Funribik heading towards the R300. It's heavy there, coming either out of Cales River or particularly around the Stickland side. So Strand Road's heavy towards the R300. Behind that, LaBelle Road and Bottleray all terribly badly backed up through there as well. And the highways are just busy. Make sure you've got plenty of time to get through this morning. They're all just looking reasonably slow. Indication of that, the M5 coming up already, sitting between Parkwood and the Kubo get a change. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This message is brought to you by Eskom, redefining for a better future.
Hey South Africa, want to keep your lights on and save money? Let's use electricity wisely. It's easier than you think. Switch off lights when you leave a room, unplug chargers and appliances, and use energy-saving bulbs. They last longer and use less power. Every little bit helps for your home, your wallet, and our planet.
Let's make it a habit and use electricity wisely. Eskom.
Begin your Montreux Jazz Festival French Hook experience in Crescendo, an elegant introduction to festival hospitality. Enjoy a dedicated entrance, buffet dining, a curated cash bar and barista coffee, all in a relaxed alfresco setting. Day and weekend lounge passes are available via Ticketmaster. And if you want to host differently, these hospitality experiences are limited by design, created for those who value presence, connection, and craft. Curate your Montreux hospitality moment at mjfsa.com or contact hospitality@mjfsa.com in partnership with the SABC.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges, Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
7 minutes to 7. Well, in a state of let me start here. The Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, set to take to the podium to deliver the budget 2026 later on this afternoon at 2 p.m. If you were listening earlier on, I did that thing that you know the fact, but then again, you make yourself doubt yourself. Budget is always on a Wednesday. So it is today, later on at 2 p.m. So backdrop for that then, in his State of the Nation address, President Cyril Ramaphosa announcing that to address the challenges facing municipalities, the state has introduced a new 54 billion rand incentive for metros to reform their water, sanitation and electricity services. Another issue that he raised is that of appointing properly qualified people for key positions in municipalities. So ahead of the budget then, to be delivered by the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, we thought we'd put local government under the spotlight, that those various allocations and even the sea change in as far as the model is concerned. Let's speak to Thabiso Ndebele, Revenue Consulting Managing Director at Ntiyiso Consulting. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. I suppose as far as local government is concerned, the main theme is the change and the review and sort of a pivot in as far as the funding model is concerned. That is a major shift that is being discussed within government from the traditional model that we've had to a model that emphasizes the potential for intervention by national government, but also in terms of how local government is funded, perhaps seeks to increase allocations. Do we expect to see a lot of that? Do we expect to see that being advanced in leaps and bounds in this budget?
So good morning to you, Thulasizwe, and the listeners. I think first and foremost, you are correct that the issue of the local government and the funding model is it's a critical one. I don't think we should expect key changes for this budget. This is noting that the allocation for local government is just under 10%, and municipalities with the current funding model are expected to generate revenue on the property rates and the service that they render. Now, why are we not expecting big change? This is simply because the review on the white paper on local government, the submissions are yet to be made. I think they're going to be made on the 31st of March. And therefore, the SONA 2027 may take those into account. But as you had mentioned, the Treasury is really being more stricter in terms of the disbursement of the funds. And you'd have seen that with the withholding of the equitable share, at least for 75 of the municipalities in the previous financial year. So yes, maybe not this year, but definitely next year.
Let's talk about the 54 billion rand incentives for metros to reform their water, sanitation, and electricity services. Locate that for me within the context of the challenges that municipalities, especially these metros, face as far as those issues specifically are concerned.
So that 54 billion rand that you're talking about, it is a support package as announced by the president. It aims to start transforming us from getting these funds and where we are not spending them well to actually saying, guys, you should be able to fix your issues so that you're able to pay for bulk services. We would know that majority of these municipalities do owe Eskom and the water boards that provide these energy or water, and therefore the shift in the model that is being proposed is that we're going to incentivize you to actually disperse the services and in turn get your billing right, get your credit control right, and be able to then pay for those services back.
And central to that is also the issue of skills, isn't it? The president in his speech talking about the importance of hiring the right people and filling those positions in key positions in municipalities with properly qualified people.
Definitely, Tulas. So there is the first element. I think it's two-pronged. There is the first element of saying let's get those skills within the municipalities, and this is also something that the white paper the white paper on local government talks about. But there's the second one, Tulas, which we should not ignore. He did mention that there will be interventions at a national government that are going to be able to drive these challenges. I think in the last time we spoke about the water board or the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency, which is aimed at addressing all the water issues that we do have. And of course, it's mimicking the electricity load shedding methodology that he used 3-4 years ago to address the issues of load shedding, which we don't hear so often about these days. So yes, it is twofold, but let's get the skills to actually sort out the current and the future infrastructure issues.
In fact, the point you make, Tabiso, about the intervention is so critical and so important. It seems to me, certainly from the president's speech, that the commitment is that there'll be no hesitation to intervene when needed. A swooping in of sorts, of course, within constitutional bounds and the likes. And also this issue around the National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency and the 156 billion rand over 3 years that will be committed to that. What's behind all of that? The sort of swooping in interventionist. What are the realities at local government that have brought us to this point where the state is speaking in these terms?
I think fundamentally how we get funding, how we dispense of the funds that we have, and perhaps not being able to manage those elements is at the core of the problem. we've got to plan and maintain the infrastructure, not only for medium term, for long term. And if you don't plan adequately, if we have mushrooming settlements, if we have increasing households, but we don't take that into account, of course, you're going to be found wanting 10, 20 years down the line. So that's the first one. But the second one is, and this is his approach really, is that we can't sustain the rate of not being able to handle these things. So as much as they've put in the 156 billion rands for water and sanitation over the next 3 years, you would have also heard that he escalated enforcement, where he was basically saying that for certain municipalities which are violating the National Water Act, there will be charges, they'll be laid as per the Act. So with that being said, I think the fundamental issue goes back to, are we able to provide the service? Are we able to plan 10, 20 years from now? And in this, at the same time, are we able to collect the revenue as the local municipality, as the metros, etc., so that we can repay for those bulk services? So it's multi-pronged, but the approach, I think, is welcome.
All right, thank you for that. Thabiso Ndebele, Revenue Consulting Managing Director at Ndiyiso Consulting. Let's go straight to Ann Musa. She's standing by with the latest news for you.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Finance Minister to deliver the budget speech and Brown Mukhotsi testifies Matlala assisted him infiltrate IPID. Good morning. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will today take the nation into his confidence as to how National Treasury plans to raise additional revenue to allocate its limited resources to many of government's priorities. He's due to deliver his budget speech. Godongwana is also expected to outline whether the government is still on track to whittling down the nation's sovereign debt. Kyle Mandy is PwC's head of tax.
There's a good chance that the 20 billion rands worth of tax increases that were penciled into last year's budget for this year will not go ahead, or at least not go ahead to that same extent. So we're pretty hopeful that we will see some relief insofar as PRT is concerned for fiscal drag, hopefully full relief, but at the very least partial relief.
Northwest businessman Brown Mukhotsi says he received information from alleged criminal kingpin Thulasizwe Simelane before he infiltrated the Independent Police Investigative Directorate as an informant. Mukhotsi says Simelane told him about an employee at IPID who was able to hack information about criminals by making their cases disappear. He testified before Parliament's ad hoc committee probing allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system.
The purpose thereof is to get me, the iPad guy. I wanted the man to know who the man was.
To investigate the iPad guy as well?
No.
To do what?
According to him, this is you see in the messages when he was attacked by the PKTT, trying to open a case in Brooklyn and so forth. This iPad guy was not around, and the case was open in Soweto. And further, he told me now that you see this iPad guy, if there is a case with proper evidence, he can act and he can do this and this wonders to arrest where there is evidence. So I wanted this iPad guy.
Suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner General Shedrick Sibiya has told the Matlanga Commission he does not know why businessman and taxi boss Steve Mutsumi has been referred to as a dangerous man. During General Isija Senona's testimony, Commission Chairperson Justice Mbuyiseli Matlanga ruled Mutsumi's name could be mentioned publicly at the Commission. General Sibiya has been linked to him through alleged middleman Sergeant Fani Nkosi. Sibiya was cross-examined by evidence leader Advocate Adila Hasim.
Do you have any idea why that would be the case? Is Mr. Mutsumi a dangerous person?
I really don't know.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that. I was just wanted to put it to you that this seems to be somebody who causes some discomfort and fear. It was a very clear request from General Sonona, please don't make me mention that name.
In other news, a fire has gutted a number of informal dwellings at Imizamo Yetu at Hout Bay in Cape Town. Aid organisation Gift of the Giver spokesperson Alisa Blaze says they'll activate humanitarian responses once the area is safe. He says the extent of the damage is being assessed.
Gift of the Givers will activate an immediate humanitarian response as soon as the area has been declared safe by the relevant authorities. The exact number of affected structures and victims will be confirmed and communicated by the disaster management teams once fire victims formally registered.
Further afield, and finally, US President Donald Trump says his administration has delivered what he called a turnaround for the ages in a State of the Union speech. He described last week's ruling by the Supreme Court that he had exceeded his powers by introducing sweeping tariffs as unfortunate and disappointing. However, he told Congress that America was back bigger, richer and stronger than ever before.
Today our border is secure. Our spirit is restored. Inflation is plummeting. Incomes are rising fast. The roaring economy is roaring like never before. And our enemies are scared. Our military and police are stacked. And America is respected again, perhaps like never before.
Recapping the top story, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will today take the nation into his confidence as to how National Treasury plans to raise additional revenue to allocate its limited resources to many of government's priorities. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
This February, don't just celebrate love. You could be celebrating some great car insurance savings too with Outsurance. Like 27-year-old Lynn, who saves a mind-blowing 636 Rand on her 2025 Haval Jolion. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. Soccer action last night. Mamelodi Sundowns have climbed to the summit of the Betway Premiership. And in rugby, the Springboks will launch their 2026 season with a clash against the Barbarians at Nelson Mandela Bay Stadium in Gqeberha. We'll bring you the details at around 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here's what to avoid if you're running from Midrand into Joburg this morning. The Mike 1 got some surprise roadworks left over from last night. Mike 1 south at Caller Drive. Big queues back into the N1 Buccleuch interchange. Might want to avoid that. Take something like the side roads. Either head down Rivonia or maybe try and get onto Louis Botha for a bit as well. Or the Pretoria Main Road will work. Plenty of traffic all over the N1 from Soweto right round to Rivonia this morning. Looking pretty slow. The N12 and R24 routes coming into Galulis are jammed up. There's a breakdown after those highways have merged. And the N3 North got an incident inside Galuli, so that's heavy from Germiston side. Durban, a breakdown into southbound going into Spaghetti Junction has been cleared, but it's left a backlog of traffic from Mgena Road. Quite slow as well, coming up the N2 between Tweedy Hill and Prospector. A lot of traffic backlogged on that route towards Durban this morning. And Cape Town, heavy all over. The N1 from Brackenfell to Kuba, get a change. There's some big traffic on the R300 as well, coming off the N2 all the way to a congested off-ramp at Van Riebeeck Road for Stickland and Belleville. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. Welcome to it, the second hour of the morning brief on this Wednesday. It is great to be in your company. I'll keep it brief in my introduction because I want to allocate and allow as much time as possible for the conversations that we have lined up for you. I have a feeling that you'll want to hear from my guests more than you want to hear from me. So I'll keep myself brief. In the next few minutes, we'll be speaking to Robert Gumede, the businessman who is part of the shareholding in Vision Group, right? Vision Group, you and I have been talking in the last few days about the imminent application for provisional liquidation of Tongaat Hewlett. They have been mentioned in recent reporting by, in particular, Amapungane Center for Investigative Journalism has the Vision Group been mentioned. So Robert Gumede will give us a perspective from their vantage point. He is on standby to speak to me over the next few minutes. And then immediately after that, we'll be asking the question, can the city of Johannesburg go from Dada to Koko? That really is the question. The race for City of Johannesburg mayor is heating up with the recent entry and entrance into that race by Herman Mashaba from Action SA. But long before he came onto the scene, from around September last year, another candidate has pretty much been on the campaign trail, the DA's Helen Zille. So it's making for an interesting and fascinating electoral race that is shaping up when the elections roll around a bit later on in the year, in that you will have Helen Zille, you now have Herman Mashaba confirmed, and it looks like the Patriotic Alliance might be going with Kenny Gunene. At this point, the ANC keeping all of us guessing in terms of who will be their candidates, but it is shaping up to be fascinating electoral race. So we'll speak to Helen Zille, and basically we'll be teasing out the question of how the campaign trail has been going, whether the entrance of Herman Mashaba has changed anything and what the numbers are telling her in terms of her prospects for success in that electoral race. So that conversation coming up at about 20 past 7 or thereabouts. Your calls, put them through to 086 000 2032. 086 000 2032. Send your WhatsApp voice notes and messages to 0614 104 107. 0614 104 107. With that said, let's get into it. The second hour of the morning brief.
This February, fall in love with a blockbuster that defined a generation. Courage, survival, rebellion. The world of Panem returns. Every moment, every battle, every choice. Settle in for the ultimate movie night with The Hunger Games. Back on your screen where it belongs. The Hunger Games, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So as far as the Tongaat Hewlett story is concerned, there are two elements that we're focused on. The one was the impact of the proposed and imminent provisional liquidation of Tongaat Hewlett on the sugar industry in KwaZulu-Natal, in Mpumalanga, on economic opportunities as well as creditors, including cane growers and other suppliers. That was the one element of the story. The other element is the, shall we call it, corporate intrigue of the liquidation and business rescue process that has been unfolding over some 37 months or so. At the center of it, of that element of the story, has been the Vision Sugar Consortium, with critics accusing it of turning a business rescue into what one analyst is calling a kind of corporate hijacking. Brief background before we get into the conversation. The consortium led by Robert Gumede and Rute Moyo acquired 11.73 billion rand in bank debt, and we are told this happened at a discount. And then we are told that on the 8th of February, it triggered the immediate repayment, effectively lighting the fuse on what rivals are describing as a debt bomb that now threatens liquidation and thousands of livelihoods in KwaZulu-Natal's sugar belt. Let's speak to Robert Gumede, who is a shareholder in Vision Group and joins us now. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. In your own words, capture for us how you came into the picture in this story of Tongaat Hewlett.
Good morning, Mpembe, and good morning to your listeners throughout the country. Thank you for that introduction. As you know, I am one of the 4 shareholders in Vision Sugar. Perhaps this morning, we're going to put facts against fiction. We are not going to be sharing with you information from the grandstand. It will be information from the field as players. If I cast back in 2018, I'm here with my partner, Rute Moyo. We started engaging with the then management and board of Tongaat Hewlett when they were visited by a big corporate scandal under the previous management of Tongaat Hewlett. As we all know, that Tongaat Hewlett is over 134 years in existence. It's a business that has been started by entrepreneurial families. Eventually, it was acquired by Anglo-American, and then it lost having a shareholder of reference. It was then run and managed by the then management team, who unfortunately were caught with serious fraudulent allegations. And as we speak today, Thulasizwe, they are in court facing this multi-billion rand fraud. And this business was one of the doyens of South Africa.
Yeah.
It came crashing on the back of the fraudulent act. It is unfortunate that we read whenever white collar commits crime, it is blamed on BE. We have seen comments saying the then management failed because they did a BE transaction. I must say, those who were the then BE partners never made one penny. They were not involved in the day-to-day management that led to the fraud that was committed over many years under the nose and supervision of the board and shareholders then.
So, Mr. Kumete, in the interest of moving us forward, tell me about your involvement in the business rescue part of the story. The report is that you acquired the debt of the banks led by a consortium of banks led by Standard Bank, that debt to the tune of 11.73 billion rand. Did you?
I thought you were going to say congratulations for doing a masterly deal.
Well, was it?
Remember, Mpembe, we are a group of entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, you buy cheap, you grow a business, and make a lot of money so that you can be able to create more jobs. We participated in a transparent, or what was supposed to be a transparent process to find a strategic equity a partner. That process was managed by IDC and the 3 BR business rescue practitioners. That's where the problem started with this process. As you know, that we participated as one of the 80 bidders and were left being 2. We were then approached by the BRPs who represented the then security holders, being the 13 banks. They asked us to equal or better a deal submitted by Kagera, which is a company based in Tanzania. We indeed increased our offer from 3.1 billion rands to 3.6 billion rands. And at the time, IDC did not give us any letter of support. We had to provide our own financial support to be able to participate in this process. And lo and behold, the Kagera Group was announced as a successful bidder until one of your colleagues in Tanzania phoned me to say, are you aware that the company that you've lost against cannot scrap 2 pence together, 2 pennies? They are not only having financial problems, but they are in breach of their contract with the IDC. We cannot fathom how IDC will support such a company. That's when, and you know me, where there is a smell of some corruption, I'm first in line. And we challenged this whole thing with the IDC, which led to one of the executive who was involved to leave the IDC. After we proved that he issued a letter committing the IDC to fund over 3.6 billion rand without board approval.
Sure.
And then we were brought in.
Yeah.
I'll be very quick. Then we were brought in because we have lost faith in the process that was undertaken to choose the strategic equity partner. Because we are business people, we are astute business people. We realize that the people who are owed money are the banks. And we went to engage with the banks to say that we rather go and buy their claim that puts us in a pound seat. We didn't put a gun on the head of the banks. We bought the claims, which claims are the security provided, are the shares in totality in all jurisdictions.
Right.
Are the assets of the company, and that's what we own and control,
Right.
including the debtors book.
Did you then at that point have, and do you have the funds to repay the IDC for their post-commencement funding? Because my understanding from the reporting of Amapungan is that the IDC has provided post-commencement funding, and there's been these questions about, for instance, that proof of funds for that debt that you were buying from the banks, that was not really backed by actual funds and access to funds.
That's, sorry to say, that's hogwash. The truth is, we entered into an agreement with the banks. We used our own money, Thulasizwe. We paid a deposit of 1.6 billion rands. We didn't borrow the money from the IDC. We didn't borrow the money from any bank. It's money that came from us as shareholders. We backed ourselves. And we had to pay the other 2 billion rands. On the 11th of January 2024, we paid the 1.6 billion rands to the banks. And we had to pay the another 2 billion rands. Just like when you buy a car or you buy a house, you have a bond, you pay a deposit. Then you are the owner. And the bank will keep whatever you are owing, they will keep the security. We bought 43% of the security held by the banks, and they control the balance. Last year, on the 9th of May, just over a year later, we paid the 2 billion to the banks. So in essence, when you talk to vision, one has to understand maybe we should be called Vision Bank. Then people will understand. We are the bankers of Tonga Hewletts.
Yeah.
The survival of Tonga Hewletts is dependent on us because we are the lender
Yes,
of reference.
so now that you mentioned that, the other allegation is that because you then became the holders of the lion's share of the what is owed to creditors in this business rescue process, you were in the driving seat as far as the business rescue plan is concerned, and now you are being accused of, by demanding the immediate payment earlier on in this month, of detonating this debt bomb that has led us and fast-tracked us to this point where we are. Did you sabotage a plan that you pretty much steered and controlled, whose conceptualization you pretty much steered and controlled by making an immediate demand for the repayment of that 11.7 odd billion rand?
Thank you very much for raising this question, because we've heard the journalists that you were interviewing. If only he did his job and got to understand how insolvency laws work in our country, he will have realized that we are not in control of Tongaat under business rescue. The banks then who were owed the money appointed 3 business rescue practitioners. They are the alpha and omega. There's no board members. The board members are the BRP and supported by 2 management officials. There is nothing that we're in control of. We are not in a position to apply for any liquidation, because many people, Thulasizwe, they see us like a BE player. Who's a BE who buys a claim for 3.6 and you call them a BE? We are a lifesaver. We got into this business to save the company, save jobs, make sure that the investment made by Gogo Dlamini, investment made by Bompem as a family and as a community plowing the fields to produce sugarcane, that their livelihoods are protected. The only problem that we see when it is black people in the lead in saving white-owned businesses, people disrespect us and think that we are thieves. And that is nonsensical.
Sure.
The deal that we have done is similar to what Elon Musk does. If it's Elon Musk, they applaud him to say that he's smart. When it is us applying the same business principles of acquiring a distressed business, a business in an ICU.
Right.
That is what we are business turnaround specialists. You know that I have a track record of taking a failed business, turning it into a success.
Yeah. I do want to squeeze in one more question, Mr. Gumet. There's a great deal of concern then about the ripple effect and the fallout from any possible liquidation of Tongaat Hewlett, given its centrality and the role that it plays within the sugar industry and the value chains downstream. What is your position towards the application for provisional liquidation? Are you in support or against that? And then I suppose I can then pick up and ask you a follow-up question. What's your attitude as this matter goes to court?
I think the first thing, Thulasizwe, we acquired the claims with a view to convert our part of our debt into equity to improve the stinking balance sheet of the company. Business is about balance sheet. Do you have cash enough for you to service your debt? And if you don't, that's what leads to insolvency. We went into this deal understanding exactly where the business is, and we knowing exactly what we need to do, and also knowing that we're capable of repeating the successes that we have under our belt in saving many other companies, saving jobs. So we are here to stay. We are here to save the company. We did not apply for the liquidation of Tongaat at all.
But do you support it now that it's happening?
How can I support something that I didn't initiate?
Yeah.
We are on record that we are here to stay. We want to save the business. The only issue that we are dealing with and that we have to deal with. Remember, the IDC, we found them involved in this transaction, in this mess. And IDC stepped in to save the business, preserve the jobs in 1992.
Yeah, I do need to
Sorry,
press you, Mr.
2022.
Kumet. I do need to press you because I'm almost out of time. So if you are not supporting it, are you opposing it in the court processes?
Remember, we own the security. Insolvency is about, are you capable of paying off your debt? And I want to get to a point of saying, how do we think this company can be saved? I think that's the most important. As we sit, our focus is to find a solution, a workable and sustainable solution before Friday. But the most important is that, which I want to remind you, we have not taken a penny from the IDC as Vision. They have not given us a penny, and we haven't taken any penny from them. We found them already being owed from 900 million to 2.3 billion.
Right.
That is what we are focused in.
Can Tonga Hewlett be saved? Can it be rescued? Can it be saved from liquidation?
Absolutely. But it requires everybody to sit around the table and find a lasting solution, not putting on a bandage on a cancer wound. That will not going to allow. We need to sit with the IDC who have not met us up to today. We see announcement on the media who are going to save the business, but we don't know how they are going to do it. And we're hoping at this minute 99, where hours and seconds are more important. Remember, we're not looking for money from the IDC to go into our pocket. We want to help the IDC to deal with the loan that they had given to this company before our time.
Right.
To say, how do we convert that PCF, which is only applicable during BR process? And that is where we need to sit and finalize. We must remember that the previous board of IDC had approved a transaction on the conversion last year already, and nothing has happened until today.
Yeah, Mr. Gomet, I'm completely out of time. Thank you for your time this morning and talking to us about these matters of critical importance, really, for the sugar industry and the broader economies, KwaZulu-Natal, parts of Mpumalanga, as well as the rest of South Africa. That's Robert Gumede, one of the shareholders in the Vision Sugar Group, talking to us about that imminent application for provisional liquidation of Tonga Hewlett. I'm really late, and Ann Musa, Ann likes me, so we'll be fine. Good morning to you, Ann.
Good morning to us. In the headlines, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana set to table the 2026 national budget today. He will detail how National Treasury plans to raise additional revenue, allocate limited resources to many of government's priorities, and whether it's still on track to reduce the nation's sovereign debt. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry is expected to hear the testimony of a new witness this morning. The Commission has heard testimony from suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner General Shedrick Sibiya on his alleged involvement with members of the alleged criminal cartel for 5 days. And the murder trial of a Limpopo pig farmer accused of shooting and killing 2 women and discarding their bodies in a pigsty will today continue in the High Court in Polokwane. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Quick look at the top traffic stories. Joburg's Mike 1 South, really heavy today. Surprise roadworks lingering from overnight at Corlett Drive in the Melrose area, pushing a queue back to Buccleuch and back up to Allendale Road. Very heavy there. A lot of congestion around Galulis, N3 out of Alberton up towards the interchange, N12 and R24. It's jammed coming in from Ekurhuleni. Talking of things that are jammed heavy, Durban's N2 northbound bad from the M7. Southbound is busy from Umgeda Road, but it is starting to ease up. The M7 going into Pinetown up over St John's Avenue Bridge from Hans Detman. Very slow getting that way today. It's one of those really busy mornings. And Cape Town, the R300 sitting from Delft all the way through to Brackenfell. That's fairly heavily backed up. M5 at Southfield Parkwood all the way through to the N2 highway. And a lot of congestion this morning around Claremont Newlands Rondebosch. Just some really jam-packed traffic in that area. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So there's a scene when Azai in Macbeth when a report is sought of how the battle is going. How goes the battle? And they say, doubtful it stood as two spent swimmers who cling on to each other and their art choke their own art in it. That competitiveness that talks to, at the top, the battle at the top, what we would say in a Swat,
well,
one minute they're at number 2, next minute they're at the top. Talk to me about Mamelodi Sundowns in this battle of two spent swimmers who cling on to each other.
Well, if this is Shakespeare, then the title race is definitely a tragedy waiting to happen for somebody. And we kind of know who that somebody is. But you know what? The battle goes on, to us. Unlike Macbeth, the throne isn't cursed. It's being contested at the moment. And we've got Mamelodi Sundowns at the summit of the Premiership. It was Marcelo Alenda's 84th minute strike, securing that 1-0 win over Amazulu in Durban. Masanda Wana are level on 38 points with Pirates, but they edge ahead on the goals scored. Amazulu, they remain 5th on 30 points. Let's go to the other action from last night, where Stellenbosch beat Kaizer Chiefs 2-1 at FNB Stadium, with Devon Titus grabbing that late winner to spoil Amakhozi's dress rehearsal ahead of the Soweto derby. After the match, coach Gavin Hunt suggested that Chiefs may have had one eye on the weekend's clash against Orlando Pirates.
I can't talk on their behalf, what the team selection or whatever, but it never came into our talk once, What I did say was that maybe trying to get 3 points today, then they can get a point on Saturday, you know what I'm saying? And we look like certainly easy pickings because of what's happened with us, travelling up and playing the extra games, so, but I didn't mention anything about derbies and that because, They had to catch up a game. We had to catch up games because of Africa, same as Sundown. So, Glenn, there was nothing. Nothing.
On to African football, where Patrice Bumal has been appointed head coach of the Tunisian Giants Esperance ahead of their CAF Champions League quarterfinal showdown with Al Ahly. The 47-year-old Frenchman recently left Angola after a disappointing AFCON campaign. He replaces Maher Kanzari, with Esperance chasing a 10th consecutive appearance in the semi-final. They host record champions Al Ahly in Tunis before travelling to Cairo. And let's look at the cricket action from the ICC T20 World Cup, where Harry Brook produced a century under pressure to guide England into the semi-finals with a 2-wicket win over Pakistan in Palakkele. Promoted to number 3 after full salt fell first ball, Brook smashed 100 of just 50 deliveries, his maiden T20 international, anchoring a chase of 165. And finally, rugby. The Springboks will kick off their 2026 campaign with a non-cap fixture against the Barbarians in Gqeberha on the 20th of June. The match serves as preparation for their nation's championship opener against England at Ellis Park 2 weeks later. The Barbarians will be coached by Scott Robertson and Felipe Contepomi. That's your sport. We'll tackle it more at the top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Dowling, good morning to you. M&A activity in the retail sector with international dimensions. Tell me about Mr. Price clearing regulatory hurdles on this NKD takeover.
Now, the retailer says it has ticked off the last outstanding regulatory requirements linked to its planned takeover of German discount chain NK, clearing the way for the transaction to be finalized. The 9.6 billion rand deal, the biggest in the retailer's history, will broaden its footprint beyond Southern Africa and provide an entry point into Europe's apparel and homeware market. With approvals now secured, the transaction is effectively unconditional, pending the transfer of the purchase price. Now, the companies expect the deal to be implemented at the end of next month, in line with the sale agreement. When the acquisition was first announced, it caught some investors off guard, sparking a lot of pushback. Initially, this announcement had knocked Mr. Price's stock, but the share price has since found firmer ground as the market weighs the risk and potential rewards of Mr. Price's international push.
So Super Group's dealership division is on a strong footing, on a strong wicket. And when that happens, it drives strong results for the group.
You're absolutely right there, Thulas. Super Group reporting strong interim results driven by rising demand for Chinese and Indian cars, and that, of course, boding really well for its dealership network. Sales of emerging Asian brands more than doubled, now making up nearly 30% of its new vehicle sales. And this saw overall group revenue jump 7%, while earnings increased by 28%. The dealership division led the growth, boosted by competitively priced brands like Omoda, Jayco, Tata, and Mahindra. In addition, Super Group added several new dealerships during the period, while its supply chain and cross-border transport divisions also performed well. The company's CEO, Peter Mountford, says the group is well placed to navigate economic uncertainty while it continues its restructuring process. It is selling off some of its UK assets, and when that is completed, it expects earnings to continue to improve into the second half of its financial year.
Lastly, Dowling, how are the markets looking at this hour?
Starting in Asia, markets are in positive territory this morning, led by the Japanese Nikkei, which is up 2.6%. Stocks are benefiting from a risk-on environment, with investors pulling back into, or rather, piling back into tech stocks ahead of Nvidia's earnings. Traders in the US keeping a close eye on those financial results to give us a greater sense of the increasing demand for AI chips. Those earnings out later today. In the meantime, futures are flat. Then coming back home, trade was mostly positive overnight, with miners, however, under pressure as the gold price eased. It has since retraced those losses back above $5,200 an ounce. But however, that pullback we did see yesterday resulted in the all-share closing flat, up 0.09%. Attention now shifts to the national budget being tabled this afternoon, and the rand is trading firmer ahead of the budget at 15.93 to the dollar, 21.54 to the pound, and 18.79 to the euro. Oil prices are steady this morning as we await another round of talks between the US and Iran. Crude is trading just above $70 a barrel.
Very well, Ndauling. We'll talk once again just after 8:30 with the final update of the morning.
It's all about meat-free meals on Color Your Plate this Sunday evening at 7. 4 contestants compete to prove that a midweek family meal can be hearty, nutritious, and full of flavor, even without the meat. With a staring from a previous season watching closely as guest judge, the stakes are high. Who will earn their approval and cook alongside them in the next round? Find out on Color Your Plate Sundays at 7 p.m. Repeat Saturdays at 4:30, only on SABC2.
This February, fall in love with the journey. No phones, no flights, just determination, connection, and the open road. From breathtaking landscapes to unexpected challenges, Race Across the World is back. Bigger, bolder, and more emotional than ever. Because sometimes the best way to find yourself is to travel together. Race Across the World Season 4, Thursdays at 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up. This February, love staying informed. As your day winds down and the evening begins, Primetime News moves to a new home. Weekdays at 6 p.m. The stories that matter, the context you trust, the news that connects you to South Africa and the world. Because loving what you watch also means trusting what you hear. Primetime News is weeknights at 8 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
16 minutes to 8. The question is, can Johannesburg go from Dada to Gogo? That has really been the theme for Helen Zille. You hear her chuckling. The race for the city of Johannesburg's mayoral election has crystallized into a high-stakes showdown between Helen Zille of the DA and Herman Mashaba, president of Action SA. With the African National Congress yet to name a candidate and incumbent mayor, Dada Morero, facing internal party turbulence, the contest seems to be becoming something of a two-horse race. Who knows? That might change. Let's see. And a referendum of sorts on Johannesburg's future. Zille's candidacy has reshaped the political landscape in the country's economic hub, and she's positioning herself as the central figure in what is widely seen as the bellwether battle for the upcoming local government elections. Good morning to you, Helen Zille. I heard you chuckling. It is your own words, so it didn't come from me. It is you who's been asking whether we can go from Dada to Gogo. Can we? Especially right now with everything that has happened and the entry of Herman Mashaba.
Well, whatever happens then just depends on the voters. The voters must decide what kind of city they want. This is Joburg's last chance, literally, to turn around. And we have to put in every effort we can to save this magnificent city. It's my hometown. It's my home city. I was born, bred, raised, educated, everything here. Got my first few jobs here. Learned to be a journalist here. Learned about politics here. And it is a magnificent city. I mean, it's a beautiful city. It's an urban forest. And it's got some of the most able, can-do people I've ever met anywhere in the world. So if those people decide that they want a government to stand shoulder to shoulder with them to fix the city, well, then they'll turn it around. It's the voter's choice.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question that Herman Mashaba was asked about you. Whether, you being in the race concerns him. Are you worried now that Herman Mashaba is confirmed to be the Action SA candidate, given that he has a background having run the city between 2016 and 2019, and that Action SA doesn't really do too badly. Didn't do too badly in the elections in hubs such as the city of Johannesburg. Does it worry you that he's in the race?
Well, I've learned through experience that you can't worry about things you can't change. And I worry about the things I can do, the things I can get right, the plans I can make, the money I can raise for fixing things. And that's what I worry about, what I can do. What other people do is up to them.
And how are the issues crystallizing for you? I saw you, I think I've seen you around the Pick It Up strike and trying to get that sorted out. Then I saw you around trying to have access to one of Joburg Water's reservoirs for an inspection to highlight the issues. And it's been reported about, highlighting the issue of potholes. As you've been on the campaign trail somewhat to a certain extent since around September last year, how are the issues crystallizing for you? Which ones are the key issues for Johannesburg right now?
Well, again, the key issues have to be identified by the voters, and the voters are saying it's water and general infrastructure. Electricity is also a big one because places are without electricity for very long periods of time. So it's all the basic services: reliable water, reliable electricity, potholes, street lights, traffic lights, sewerage, stormwater, refuse collection, all those things that local government is responsible for and in many places isn't happening. Those are the issues the voters are highlighting. Now, if we fix those, we can address the second biggest issue for voters in a local government election, and that is jobs. And if Joburg is working in all the basics and everything is functioning, then we will bring back investment to the city. We will grow the economy and there will be more jobs. Just like you're seeing where the DA is governing in Midvaal, in Cape Town, in the Western Cape. The quarterly labor force survey always shows that that's where the jobs are created. Not because government creates the jobs, but because people are confident that things work and then they invest and put their businesses there and those create jobs. So that's another big issue, and we can turn Joburg round, get the services working, bring back the investment, because this is a fantastic agglomeration economy to invest in. It is fantastic, and we will bring back that investment if we get the basic things working. Then obviously crime and the issue of people illegally in South Africa is a very big issue for the voters, which I understand 100%. And we are a party of the rule of law. So we want clean, safe, public, open spaces for use by the public, not by criminals. And we also strongly believe that in the rule of law, people who are not legally in South Africa need to be repatriated. And we need to focus on that because that is a very big issue to the voters.
That's going to be a tough one, that last one, right? On that element of the rule of law that has to do with immigration enforcement, because that is Herman Mashaba's domain and territory and forte in a way.
Well, nobody owns any issue in an election. I mean, you can talk about something as much as you like, but it depends on what you do, not what you say. Now, if you look at people doing something about it, take a look at Leon Schreiber, who's our Minister of Home Affairs. He's broken open all of these corrupt syndicates in Home Affairs that were selling fake permanent residence documents, selling fake IDs, doing all of that, getting very rich on that. And in a huge corruption network, enabling a lot of people to unlawfully enter South Africa and stay here with forged papers. Now, he's cracked that thing wide open, and we are very pleased about that. He's put much more enforcement onto the border and repatriated far more people who were unlawfully in South Africa. So don't listen to what people say. You can jump around as much as you like. The question is, what have you done?
So let me ask you, I know how you in the DA pay attention to polling and surveys and the work that you do behind the scenes. You plan it out almost to the T. So there's no doubt in my mind that you've been watching what the numbers and figures are telling you. What are they saying?
Well, they give us cause for optimism, cautious optimism at this stage in an election campaign, because an election is a long thing and things happen. But they give me cause for cautious optimism. I think we can be the biggest party in many of South Africa's metros, and that will be a massive game changer for our country.
Lastly, I want to read an excerpt from Ferial Hafaji, writing in Daily Maverick and just analyzing your style of campaigning and what you are projecting as your personality. In a context, of course, where some people have said you are a divisive figure in South African politics. She says, quote, "Gone is the anti-woke conservative politician who once said colonialism was not entirely bad. In vogue is the seasoned politician who speaks many South African languages, traversing both elite and working class, white and black Johannesburg. Her campaign's working, but Mashaba will crash it." Let's forget about that last bit, end quote. Let's forget about that last bit for a moment. Are you polishing your image, de-emphasizing those aspects that have led to you attracting that description that says you are a divisive figure, and emphasizing what you believe will resonate with voters?
Thulasizwe, I've always been the same person. I've always gone everywhere to all communities. I was the MP for that vast area of Khayelitsha, Langanyanga, Gugulethu, Crossroads, Philippi, all of those areas. I was in those communities every single weekend, almost all Saturday and all Sunday. When I've got a job of work to do, I do that job of work with my heart and with my soul. So I've never been a conservative politician. I have been anti-woke because that's very divisive. I believe in non-racialism. I don't believe in dividing people on the basis of race or judging people on the basis of race. I judge people on the basis of their character and who they are, not on the basis of the color of their skin. So I've always been the same person, Thulasizwe, always been the same person.
All right.
It was just that critical theory got a hold of South Africa like it did in America and England, and I opposed that. But I also never said colonialism wasn't all bad. I believe it was all bad, but I'm saying its legacy, which is something quite different, it's what it left behind, is not only bad. So, for example, formal schooling is a legacy. Universities are a legacy. Electricity generation and reticulation is a legacy. Piped water is a legacy. These things aren't only bad.
All right. Helen Zille, thank you for that. That's the DA's mayoral candidate for the city of Joburg, Helen Zille there. Hopefully we can get to interact with the other candidates as well, right? As and when they are announced. Of course, there's Kenny Gunen, and let's see if we can line something up with him in the coming days and weeks.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
SAFM traffic with momentum. Just as you plan your route, only 15% of households plan for retirement. Plan yours today. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor for advice that meets your context.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Quick update, very slow coming through from Pretoria to Joburg this morning. Got the surprise roadworks that have hung over from last night on the Mike 1 South going into Corlett Drive. So what you've got is very heavy from Buccleuch. And then behind that, you've got the sort of daily backlog from Old Joburg Road down to about sort of Oliphants and New Road. That's normal, but that traffic stays there across all lanes right through to Buccleuch and onto that Mike 1 down as far as Melrose. So very heavy. If you're on your way out of Pretoria, you want to get to work in Sandton or you want to get down beyond Sandton, make sure you've got plenty of time. It really is a heavy go slow this morning. N12 onto the N3 out of Alberton all the way up to Galulis is heavy. There is an incident on the N3 North before the interchange that the police are dealing with, and that's why that's so bad. N12 out of Benoni through Boxburg down to Atlas Road is heavy once again this morning. Durban crash at the Richmond Road M13 junction. So if you're on the Richmond Road coming into Pinetown from Westmead or on the M13 coming down Fields Hill into Pinetown, both of those routes are pretty solid. The M4 around Virginia Airport north and southbound jam-packed this morning between Blue Lagoon and Umhlanga. The N2 north from Amanzimtoti busy but easing up very quickly. Cape Town heavy pressure out of Tableview this morning Road. That jams all the way down to Montague Drive. The Stickland area is the other area of concern this morning. Strand Road, LaBelle and Bottleray coming in from the Brackenfell side. A lot of congestion in that part of town. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
This February, fall in love with friendships that feel like family. Old bonds, new beginnings, and chapters that remind us why love, in all its forms, matters. The story comes full circle in The Best Man, the final chapters, where love, loyalty, and life collide one last time. Because some stories stay with you long after the final scene. The Best Man, the final chapters, weeknights 7 p.m. only on S3, Beloved.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, quick reaction to some of the stories we've covered this morning. I want to go straight to them. Let me take one about Helen Zille and the conversation we've just had, but also the conversation we had earlier on with Robert Gumede about Tongat Hewlett.
Good morning, Thulas, and to the fellow listeners. It's Takarani. Thulas, Ukoko is lying. No, she mustn't take credit for things that doesn't belong to them. The issue of the crackdown by Home Affairs and all that, it started a long time ago. Do you want to tell me that the SIU worked on that project for 6 months and they cracked it? Never. Gogo, please stop lying to the public. You are talking like a true politician, though. Thank you.
Well, she says it's partly the work of Leon Schreiber, who has been a minister for more than 6 months. So I don't know, but I'm not saying you should believe what she's saying. I'm just adding that little bit of context to the picture as you make up your own mind about it.
Morning to Thulasizwe, Grant from the Free State. I'm just listening to the Hewlett saga. The gentleman's mentioning that the IDC funded the previous people running that ran the company into the ground? Who were the previous people that the IDC funded? Who did the IDC fund?
Yeah, I suppose that's part of the public record. I don't have an answer for you straight up now in terms of the specific people that received funding from the IDC. He was talking about BEE people that he says were funded but were not party to the decision making, if I recall correctly. But also there's that history and context of why Tongaat Hewlett fell into the financial distress it fell into in the first place. A lot of the, I suppose, misdeeds, malfeasance in terms of its own books is what has been reported widely. But I don't want to commit without the level of particularity that would make me comfortable to give you an intelligent comment. But you ask a relevant question. Let me see if I can quickly just do some research and then come and give you a more committal comment on that and try and engage you better on that. Hopefully I can do that. I'd rather not step into any situation where I'm not 100% certain, because the focus has largely been on the here and now. Certainly it's not a story I claim to have followed very closely over its period, but I've been following what's been happening now. So let me pause on that and go straight to N. Musa, who is standing by with the latest news.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
In our top stories, Godongwana set to table the national budget and pig farm murder trial continues in Polokwane High Court. Good morning. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana is set to table the 2026 national budget today. He will detail how National Treasury plans to raise additional revenue, allocate limited resources to many of government's priorities, and whether it's still on track to reduce the nation's sovereign debt. PwC Head of Tax Kyle Mandy details expectations for the budget.
There's a good chance that the 20 billion rands worth of tax increases that were penciled into last year's budget for this year will not go ahead, or at least not go ahead to that same extent. So we're pretty hopeful that we will see some relief insofar as PRT is concerned for fiscal drag, hopefully full relief, but at the very least partial relief.
Meanwhile, street hawkers in Polokwane, Limpopo have urged the finance minister not to increase value-added tax. One of the hawkers say it will be expensive for them to stock goods if it's increased.
We are not going to make a business in that way because of a budget and the VAT. So we are requesting the minister that that if it can go down so that we can also manage to make a business.
In other news, the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry is expected to hear the testimony of a new witness this morning. The Commission has heard testimony from suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner General Shedrick Sibiya on his alleged involvement with members of the alleged criminal cartel for 5 days. The Commission was established to probe allegations of criminality, political interference and corruption in the criminal justice system. Sibatle Mota reports.
General Sibiya did not conclude his testimony at the Matlanga Commission. However, he is expected to return at a later date that will be announced by the inquiry. The suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner is one of the top cops who have been recommended for investigation by the Matlanga Commission. Others include KZN Hawks head General Liseja Sinona, Brigadiers Rachel Macheng and Mbangwa Nkwashu, Sergeant Fanny Nkosi and General Richard Shibiri. Proceedings begin at 10 a.m.
The murder trial of a Limpopo pig farmer accused of shooting and killing 2 women and discarding their bodies in a pigsty All today continue in the High Court in Polokwane. Zakaria Olafir allegedly shot and killed Maria Magatu and Gudzai Ndlovu in 2024. Farm supervisor Rudolf de Wet was charged with murder, but he has since turned state witness. Farm worker William Masora has been charged with defeating the ends of justice and facing an additional charge. Rendane Ralipaswa reports.
A ballistic expert, Warrant Officer Fortunate Mahlalela, is expected to continue on the witness stand. During the previous sitting, Mahlalela had started testifying on the cartridges found on the scene and the types of guns used in the commission of the alleged crime. Her testimony will reveal if the cartridges found and the firearms do match. The defense lawyer, Advocate Jacobus Venter, is therefore expected to cross-examine the state witness. Meanwhile, both accused, Olifir and Musora, are in custody.
And finally, Cape Town International Airport has confirmed power and operations are fully restored following a fire that caused flight suspensions and delays yesterday. Airports Company of South Africa says the fire broke out at the International Inner Lane landside. The fire was extinguished shortly after it ignited. The incident affected networks and IT services, including airport Wi-Fi and other essential systems. Recapping the top story, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana is set to table the 2026 national budget today. For SAFM News, I'm Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
With Outsurance, saving on your car insurance is sweeter than heart-shaped chocolates. 30-year-old Dineo saves an unbelievable 1,094 Rand on her 2025 Kia Sonet. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Why pay more when you could be saving? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it's soccer. Orlando Pirates coach Abdusalam Wadu braces for his first sold-out Soweto derby as the Betway Premiership title race intensifies. And in rugby, the Lions are looking to build on their Sharks' victory when they clash with the Stormers in a key URC encounter. All the details at around 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Make sure if you're driving between Pretoria and Sandton or Pretoria and Joburg, if you're workbound or got somewhere to get to, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through. It really is a disaster. Surprise roadworks on the Mike 1 South going down to Caller Drive, and that's a queue that basically extends right back through Woodmead, back through Buccleuch, and pushes the M1 back as far as New Road. Before you get to New Road, during the usual backlog anyway, old Joburg to New Road, and then all the way down through Buccleuch and right down to Melrose. You'll need plenty of time to get through that, or look at some alternative routes. But only through Boxburg, quite heavy on the N12 this morning. Durban N2 North still queuing up from the M7 through Westwood Mall. A crash at the bottom of Fields Hill junction with Richmond Road. Both of those routes going into Pinetown are slow today. And the M19 coming off, the M19 onto Mgeta Road, Reservoir Hills into Springfield. That's quite a slow go section as well. Cape Town, the main road, solid today between Muizenberg and Cork Bay. If you're on your way to Fishhook or Simonstown, there's a whole pile of traffic there. And the main road going from Wynberg up through Kenilworth into central Claremont looking very heavy, and a lot of congestion around Stickland this morning. Strand Road, LaBelle and Bottleray all jammed solidly. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
7 minutes after 8, welcome to it, the third hour of the morning brief on this Wednesday. It's great to be in your company. As we always do around this time, let me take a few minutes and read some of your messages that have come through on the WhatsApp line 0614 104 107. A nice mix there, eh? I'm really enjoying the engagement, especially for those people who feel that, I don't really want want to put my voice on air, but I do have views on some of the issues. And I like that you're mixing it up, keeping it fun, also keeping it serious at the same time and engaging with the key issues of the day. So let me start with one from Sipo. Sipo says, this one, you can't win this one, Sipo. Ne? Sipo says, can't the SABC air Madlanga Commission only, not ad hoc committee? Politicians are doing beauty contest than getting work done. Brown told that Kumalo employed BMW salesman Mr. Mokwele and Ms. Mokwele, and they keep quiet. She was not a salesperson but qualified engineer leading technical team, says Sipo. Sipo not impressed with the performance of the politicians in getting answers and following through on what is said by the witnesses who appear before them. And in fact, TG also has the same issue in mind. And TG is asking how the media continues to give this Brown Mokhotsi clown media coverage, although it is clear that it is a fraud and a criminal that is working with Mkhunu and Sibiya to discredit General Mkwanazi and the Zulu King and other people who are fighting against crime. And I think the CI leadership and possible police are looking at this, as you can't have criminals holding the law enforcement agencies at ransom, and we need to see Mokhotsi behind bars as a matter of urgency. So there you are. TG also not impressed with the goings on at the ad hoc committee in Parliament. Then let me read this one that has to do with our conversation with Robert Gumede a bit earlier on. It's from Nati in Cape Town. Nati says, South African way of doing business is so conservative, and what Robert Gumede and his associates did was corporate raiding, which didn't sit well with Stellenbosch guys. I bring Stellenbosch to this as they are the trustees of the Millennium Trust, which fund Amapungane. Why Amapungane never write anything about them, asks Nati in Cape Town. Then a whole lot of you are talking about the mayoral race in Johannesburg. And someone here says about the issue of unlawful migration and the need to respond to it effectively, which was part of the conversation with Helen Zille. This person says, I think credit must be given to Uncle Gaty, and I think Uncle Gaty is Gayton Mackenzie. Uncle Gaty, because he started Abahambe, and then things start happening, says that listener there. And then someone else says about Herman Mashaba. If anyone had to investigate Mashaba's role when he was mayor, they would think differently. Please investigate the fire engine's outcome and report on it. The city deteriorated under his leadership due to his inability to get anything done. His tenure was about giving favors to his coalition partners, is the assessment of the tenure. Because, of course, if you have a history in the position that you are now campaigning for, that history can either work in your favor or work against you. And certainly as far as this listener is concerned, that history works against Herman Mashaba. Someone else then says, thanks for the interview with Helen Zille. Like it or not, she does get results. Wishing her only the best. And then someone else immediately says, Cape Town is 23% unemployed. How can she bring jobs in Johannesburg? Western Cape, her province, is the global crime capital, and then she expects me to believe she can stop crime in Joburg. Silly, really, says that person. I saved this one for last because I thought it's so witty. This person says, Thulas, you've got a go-go in the political business. Then they put the musical icons, emojis, and say Helen Zille. Remember? You've got an uncle in the furniture business, Joshua Doe. This person says you've got a go-go in the political business, Helen Zille. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. Let's keep the conversation going. The number to dial 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes 0614 104 107. Let's get into it. The third hour of the morning brief starts now.
This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal Fall, Murder or Accident investigates suspicious deaths. from balconies, staircases, and cliffs, where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal fall, murder, or accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Begin your Montreux Jazz Festival French Hook experience in Crescendo, an elegant introduction to festival hospitality. Enjoy a dedicated entrance, buffet dining, a curated cash bar, and barista coffee, all in a relaxed alfresco setting. Day and weekend lounge passes are available via Ticketmaster, and if you want to host differently, these hospitality experiences are limited by design, created for those who value presence, connection, and craft. Curate your Montreux hospitality moment at mjfsa.com or contact hospitality@mjfsa.com in partnership with the SABC.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
At 2 p.m. this afternoon, the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana will table the country's national budget in Parliament. In principle, the budget should give practical effect to the commitments made in the President's State of the Nation address, particularly the promise to advance dignity, equality, and opportunity. Yet, for many working in the education advocacy space, the annual budget has become less a moment of renewal and more a stark reminder of deepening austerity, especially in basic education. Let's pick up on that thread of the national budget with Daniel Peter Al-Nadaf, legal researcher at Equal Education Law Center. Good morning to you, Daniel, and thank you for your time. So
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with the scene and the context for this budget. We've been talking austerity in education. What is the context as the minister prepares to deliver the budget as far as austerity and what they've called fiscal consolidation has done in education?
Yeah, thank you so much for the really interesting question. And I really appreciate the context that you gave in the beginning about how, the budget is supposed to be the other side of SONA. And I think that's one of the key parts of the context here is that for decades now, every single State of the Nation address, we hear how important education is. Increasingly, we're finally getting acknowledgements from the state about how important early learning is as well as part of that. And almost every single year in the budget, we see real term decreases in education spending. And so that's been the context, is that austerity has absolutely hit education to the extent that in real terms, what learners are receiving now is actually less than what they were receiving 10 years ago. And that was already in itself insufficient. And so the context we're going into is one in which for decades, the state has vastly underspent, and certainly not enough to reverse or address the structural apartheid created decades ago. And so what we're hoping for is finally for at the very least an acknowledgement that the state owes a debt to its children that it hasn't yet started to repay.
Where is the bite of austerity measures being felt the most within the education system?
Well, unfortunately across the board, but to give you some of the top areas, one of the most important areas is that the provinces, the provincial education departments have all seen reductions from the National Treasury. And I think it's important for people to know that in education spending, the vast majority of the budget is sent through to the provinces, and they then have to decide how that money is then spent on their districts. And as a result, provinces are being expected to do a lot more with a lot less. And so some of the biggest cuts we've seen in the past few years have been for learner transport, for per learner allocations to schools, for nutrition, and for learning and teaching and support materials. And so you'll see all of this happening at the same time that parents are then being told increasingly at schools that they have to pay these, stationary fees or additional compulsory donations, all of which are examples of schools getting more and more desperate as the state constrains their funding further.
Yeah, in fact, say a bit more about that, because I found that quite interesting. The length to which certain schools and school governing bodies and other authorities, perhaps at a local level, are having to go to try and make do and try and get by under the weight of these budget cuts. You are saying that there's a trend now of parents being asked to make quote-unquote donations to support the
Yes.
school, and this being enforced, and you are having to intervene in some instances.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, at our daily advice clinic, we help clients for free each day with legal advice around the country, and we've always seen it, but a rapid increase this year, in particular, and years previously, in parents being told, actually predominantly at what are supposed to be non-fee charging schools, that their child can't access the classroom or can't access the school at all if they don't pay what are sometimes called compulsory donations, which sort of is a contradiction in terms. Sometimes are told to bring incredibly long supposed, stationary lists and told that they can't participate if they don't do that. I once had a client of myself that I gave legal advice to who was beaten by their teacher and told to go back to grade 10 because they couldn't afford to pay this supposed compulsory donation to get into grade 11. And so we challenge all of those very clearly unlawful and unacceptable practices. But they are also indicative of the fact that schools are, still facing the same running costs as they've had before, in fact, sometimes increasing, and aren't getting the funding from the state that's necessary.
And examples of these include what? Cleaning supplies and the likes.
Yeah, cleaning supplies. We've had a lot of clients who've been told to, for example, that if they don't bring several liters of pine gel for the classrooms, that they aren't allowed to participate in school. Often are told that they have to pay what's called an initiation fee, which is of course unlawful. And I think it's especially important to remember that these are predominantly learners at non-fee charging schools, which receive per learner allocations, insufficient as they are, to ensure that learners from the poorest parts of South Africa can still access their education. And so we've had many clients who we've had to intervene to assist because schools, as they get more and more desperate, not receiving their funding, are finding new and unfortunately scarily creative ways to extract that money out of the poor. And I think just to clarify here that what we said in our statement is that when the state speaks about fiscal consolidation and austerity and saving, we're never saving those costs. We're actually just transferring them. And the people who they're being transferred to are the poorest South Africans who already can barely afford to get by each day.
How concerned are you about two programs, the National School Nutrition Program as well as the subsidized scholar transport program that we've seen problems manifest quite acutely in provinces like KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng?
Yeah. Unfortunately, very concerned. We've already had some indications from provinces, including Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, actually, now that you mention it, that there will be further cuts, particularly to their scholar transport programs and potentially also to their nutrition programs. And I think, again, parents who are listening will know better than I will how stressful it is when their child is possibly eventually placed 20, 30 kilometers away from their home. And the only thing that they can rely on is scholar transport to get them there. Or children who don't have anything else to eat other than the one meal they're provided daily. We've in fact even had clients who've arrived at school, been entitled to the National School Nutrition Program meal, and were told that if they don't pay a donation for gas, they then can't receive their meal. And so we are incredibly concerned about the massive effects that are already being felt and the effects that will continue to be felt because of austerity in education.
So given everything we've talked about then, Daniel, can the finance minister afford to take to the podium and talk about eliminating wastage within the system and talk about realizing efficiencies, but stay on the path that he's been on and perhaps not add much to the annual budget of education? Can that still be sustained?
No, it can't. And it can't have been sustained for years now. The Targeted and Responsible Savings Program is another example of something that was supposed to introduce efficiency, but has predominantly actually targeted eligible social grant recipients and beneficiaries, and so made children more vulnerable. And more broadly speaking, when the minister speaks about consolidating debt, I think the last thing I'd love to leave your listeners with is remembering that not paying for our children's education is a form of debt in itself. And at some point, we're going to have to pay the cost of not feeding and educating our children. And I would much rather take on the temporary debt and of borrowing to ensure that we're able to do that than repay the consequences of an undereducated and underfed population in years to come.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time this morning and for those insights ahead of the budget 2026. That's Daniel Peter Al-Nadaf, legal researcher at Equal Education Law Center.
What's with the camouflage, Dorf? I'm going hunting. Just me, nature, and my most underrated off-roader, a rental car. Hunting? You could fit that little car in your backpack, Dorf.
I sit in the driver's seat. Baggage at the back, chairs on the roof. The kudu is going to get in and strap its own seatbelt, Savvy.
Could do with more legroom, Doff. Go hunt for a new 4x4 at We Buy Cars. They got great deals.
Oh, shot, Savvy.
Don't be doof, be savvy. We Buy Cars, geared for that big trip, geared for you.
This February, love staying informed. As your day winds down and the evening begins, Primetime News moves to a new home. Weekdays at 6 p.m. The stories that matter, the context you trust, the news that connects you to South Africa and the world. Because loving what you watch also means trusting what you hear. Primetime News is weeknights at 8 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
24 minutes after 8, communities in Coronationville and Westbury, west of Johannesburg, erupted in protest yesterday over prolonged and erratic water outages. Frustrated residents blocked major roads with burning tires and stones, saying that they are fed up with years of unreliable supply and what they describe as broken promises from government leaders, including Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero and Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi. Let's speak to Jefferson Alistair, who is a Westbury community activist. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So the issues around water in communities like Westbury and Coronationville are well documented and they've played themselves out over a period of time. There was a period where there was engagement between government leaders and yourselves as communities with a view to restoring normalcy in that situation. Since those conversations, has anything changed?
Good morning. Thank you, my brother, for having me and inviting me to your show this morning. You know, one of the things that I'd like to say with regards to all this, you know, there's one thing that government really knows how to do very well. As the minute there's a protest, then they switch on the water. But without realizing what they're doing is that they're messing up pipes, they're messing up a whole lot of things, meter boxes in the area. There's wastes, complete wastes of water when the minute that gush comes on with the pressure. So I think, you know, for me personally, my brother, it's the fact that there's a lot of lies and no action to it. There's a lot of lies and no action to it. That's what the problem is at this current moment.
Are you getting updates as to where the state is and the local government is and other entities are in addressing the issues that were at the root of the water problems, the problems at Hurst Hill Reservoir, you know, the leaks in the reservoirs, etc.? Have you been given an update on how far that work is?
Absolute no updates whatsoever. So a while ago, I think this was in December last year, where they said that the water, or in January, where the water will be off for like 7 days, and they had stipulated areas, regions that was going to be off, where that was affected by a Aikenhof reservoir. So the Westbury Coronationville was not involved in that, but without saying, days later, the whole of Westbury, especially with regards to the flats and all that, and then certain parts of the houses on top, they were off. But then Coronationville, predominantly, they are suffering like the flats all the time. So there's no updates with regards to what is happening. There's no updates with regards to how far they are with restoration. There's no updates with regards to what the real problem is. So that is where we see it at this current moment with regards to Melbourne at the very same level as what we are.
Part of the frustration has been targeted at water tankers, and many communities would say, you know, when there's no water, there should be water tankers that are brought in. But in your community, that has become a point of frustration. Why is that?
Absolutely. So, you know, because of there's a lot of diversion in our area. So what happens is that you'll see a truck on that side. There's a tanker on that end. And if you stop that tanker, that tanker is finished. It has to go and get a refill, and then when it comes back to the same area as opposed to going to the other side. You understand? So the split in the area, that is the one frustration. You know, with regards to where gangsters are and all that, and you always get to hear that the drivers of these tankers are always telling you that they're afraid of going there. They're afraid of going there. So there's uncertainties that we absolutely as a community we can't stand.
So what is the impact of all of this in terms of day-to-day life, having to haul water, carry water in buckets and the likes. What's that translating to in lived reality?
It's not a nice thing. It's literally like you're in a village. It's literally like you're in a village, something that you moved way far from years ago. We are back at that level. I mean, like if you look at, for example, at the flats where we live, there's grandmothers that's there where there's no grandkids to assist them with the water buckets and all that, and then there's also the fact that they forget. Now they leave the taps open, you have an overflow of water. Do you understand? The minute that water comes on at certain areas at certain times in the morning.
What's the way forward? I mean, how do you... I saw that there was that protest, but over and above protesting, what's the plan in terms of continuing to shine the spotlight on this issue and keeping it under the spotlight, but also ensuring that the solutions that are workshopped are sustainable?
I think communication is key. Communication is absolute key. You understand? And when I say communication is key, there's areas like Fordsburg, there's areas like Melville, Coronationville, Westbury, however, how far it might go. Wherever this is affecting all of us, I think there should be proper communication all the time. Don't just treat us as like you guys are outcasts. That's what they're literally saying. It's like we don't care. However you do it, it's your business, it's your prerogative. I feel as though communication should be the key to this, and at least let us know exactly how far you are with regards to the mess ups with the reservoir in Hursthill.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Jefferson Alistair, a Westbury community activist, just talking about the situation in as far as water supply is concerned in communities to the west of Johannesburg. Water seems to be a key theme and a hot button issue in this electoral cycle, at least in the city of Johannesburg. 8:30, and Musa on standby with the latest news.
Good morning. Thanks to us in the headlines. The Hawks in KwaZulu-Natal are raiding various drug dens at different locations in Chatsworth, south of Durban. It's believed law enforcement have been monitoring the locations for about a year. The South African Medical Association is calling on Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana to make funding for the employment of healthcare workers a priority when he delivers the budget speech this afternoon. And the UN Security Council has condemned the paramilitary rapid support forces for its continued assaults and atrocities in the Kordofan region of Sudan. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, some better news now. It looks like the roadworks on the Mike 1 South around Melrose have probably been lifted. The traffic flow between Woodmead and Melrose looking a lot better, but it's left a big backlog coming very slow through Midrand. So from Samrand Road, you're going to see traffic all the way down into Beclue and possibly all the way down to about Melrose, really, before you're sort of out of all of that pressure. Looks like a bit of traffic coming off at Beclue and trying to get down to Ravonia, so some delays there. And then more delays on the M1 South going down to the Winnie Mandela off-ramp as well. If you're driving in from the Ekurhuleni side, a breakdown on the N12 at Craft Road. That's enough to push things back in towards Jet Park territory. Durban, the N2 between Umgeta Road and Spaghetti Junction, just getting a little break from the normal delays, flowing quite nicely. Nothing's broken down or crashed there at this hour, so the back of rush hour has eased up nicely and it's flowing well. Cape Town fairly heavily congested around Rondebosch, Newlands and Claremont. There's a lot of roadworks going along Iman, Horan and around that Stanhope Bridge, and that just causes delays primarily along Main Road and the Campground Road in that Claremont Newlands area. Gets very busy through there. And a crash on the M1 inbound just by the Durban Road exit at Belleville. That's pushed a queue back to Okavango Road on the N1 coming in and pushing a queue back on the R300 behind that N1 back as far as Bottleray Road. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. So it's a derby debut. I don't have a third D that I would have thrown in there for Abdesalam Wadu.
There we go, Tulas. That's exactly it. It is a do or die, I think, for us to
Derby
tell.
debut, do or die.
Oh, we could add destiny. I don't know.
Okay, I
Uh,
get you.
Derby debut drama? I
Yes.
don't know.
Mm.
So anyway, let's hope he can deliver as well, Tulas. Another D that we're looking for when it comes to Pirates coach Abdusalam Wadu. Now, this is his first sold-out Soweto derby when the Buccaneers face Kaizer Chiefs at FNB Stadium on Saturday. 90,000 fans expected at the Calabash. And with the title race heating up, he says he'll need his players to stick to the game plan and not get swept away by the occasion as Pirates look to bounce back after consecutive defeats. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs' title hopes have taken another knock after their 2-1 defeat to Stellenbosch at FNB Stadium, their third loss in 4 matches. With the Soweto derby looming, confidence is fragile. Their co-coach Khalil Ben Yusuf admits the technical team now faces a massive task to lift the squad.
Yeah, it's part of our job that when we are in bad situation like now to continue to work and to make a lot of mentally work for the player to prepare them for the derby. I think every derby it's have different reality, and depending of the result of the team, derby have another reality, and I hope that we'll be ready to win this day.
Moving to rugby, with the Lions say they've hit the reset button after that 52-17 hammering by the Bulls last month. Assistant coach Jacques Fourie admits changes were needed and they've responded with a 34-22 win over the Sharks, but the real test comes Saturday at Ellis Park against the Stormers in the URC. Cricket Proteas batter Tristan Stubbs says the West Indies will be a serious test in Ahmedabad tomorrow, with the Windies coming off a massive 256 in their big win over Zimbabwe. Stubb warns that they've got the power right through the order, plus a dangerous left arm spin, but says South Africa will be ready with both teams still unbeaten in this T20 World Cup. And finally, women's cricket. The Proteas women will look to wrap up their ODI series against Pakistan when they meet in Centurion this afternoon. South Africa lead 1-0 after a 37-run win in Bloemfontein, with wicket-keeper, batter as well, Sanalo Jafta, saying the focus is simple. They have to stay disciplined and push for a dominant series victory ahead of next month's tour to New Zealand. And you can catch the action live on SABC Sport. That's your SAFM Sport. John Helica will be swinging around 12:30 with more. I'm Sai Khan.
Get Spar Super Savings at every store, in every aisle, every day. Like 2-ply Spar toilet rolls, 18s for $94.99. Save 25 Rand. Or Huggies Dry Comfort Nappies or Nappy Pants, Jumbo Pack, including Gold Value Pack. Buy any 2 for 320 Rand. Save 64 Rand. Now that's super savings. Price is valid from the 23rd of February till 8 March, while stocks last. Only at Spar. T's and C's apply.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Dowling, good morning to you once again. Let's start with yet another big company with, I don't know, tentacles and whose impact is felt in various supply chains and socially and also in terms of the economy. RCL Foods. Tell me about the warning that they're issuing on of a sharp fall in earnings.
Yeah. So the food manufacturing company Thulas has warned that earnings for the interim period could drop by as much as 45%, highlighting continued pressure on its operations. RCL says the decline reflects weaker underlying trading conditions. Its sugar division has been particularly hard hit. Of course, a surge of low-priced sugar imports has flooded the local market, pushing more production into exports where prices are much lower. The company says this, combined with softer global sugar prices, has weighed heavily on its interim performance. The warning, of course, comes amid broader turmoil in the country's sugar industry, which has been struggling for some time. Just last week, we heard from Tongaat Hewlett, facing a provisional liquidation hearing, underscoring the sector's ongoing challenges. Now, in terms of RCL, the group says it'll provide further insight on its performance when it releases its results next week.
So talk to me about the Competition Commission and what they've said around Transpaco Premier, that tie-up. What's their verdict?
So really a blow within the plastics industry, with Transpaco's plan to buy Premier Plastic hitting a setback after the Competition Commission blocked the proposed 128 million rand transaction. The Transpaco said it has been notified that the watchdog has prohibited the deal and is now reviewing the regulator's feedback while weighing its next steps. Shareholders will be updated in due course. Now, the deal was announced in November, and the acquisition was intended to strengthen Transpaco's footprint in the retail and wholesale segments. Premier produces plastic carrier bags for major fast-moving consumer goods retailers, primarily serving Gauteng and inland regions from its Tshwane facilities. The target company also owns a recoveries plant which recycles plastic materials and supplies polymer raw materials to both Premier and third-party customers. Transpaco, in the meantime, has not disclosed the reasons behind the Commission's decision.
Lastly, then, Dowling, how's the day likely to shape up, given everything you've told us? These things happen, you know. What kind of a trading day can we expect?
So local markets are expected to open in the green Thulas ahead of a busy day for corporate earnings and the national budget. Investors will watch results from Bidcorp, Valterra, and Blue Label, while the budget is anticipated to signal credible deficit reduction, stabilizing debt, and ongoing reforms, factors that have lifted market sentiment. That, of course, also supporting the local unit this morning, trading firmer at 15.93 to the dollar, 21.64 to the pound, and 18.79 to the euro. Then over in commodities, oil remains range bound as markets eye another round of talks between the US and Iran. Crude currently trading below $71 a barrel this hour. Stateside, futures are flat with a wait-and-see approach taking hold ahead of Nvidia's fourth quarter earnings out later today. And then lastly, in Asia, stocks in positive territory led by markets in Japan and Hong Kong.
All right, Dowling, thank you for that. That's Dowling Lechela, who's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets. Always right on the money is our Dowling.
This February, fall in love with a blockbuster that defined a generation. Courage, survival, rebellion. The world of Panem returns. Every moment, every battle, every choice. Settle in for the ultimate movie night with The Hunger Games. Back on your screen where it belongs. The Hunger Games, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. This February, love the truth, no matter how unsettling it is. They were called accidents, a slip, a fall, a tragic mistake. But what if they weren't? Fatal fall, murder or accident investigates suspicious deaths. From balconies, staircases and cliffs. Where one question refuses to go away. Did someone push them? Through forensic science and haunting testimony, the truth is uncovered. Fatal fall, murder or accident. Tuesdays 6 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
19 minutes to 9. The Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, of course, is preparing to table the 2026 national budget. Healthcare providers, ahead of that, are urging National Treasury to prioritize immediate measures that improve affordability and access. They argue that the budget must give practical effect to commitments made by President Cyril Ramaphosa during his State of the Nation address, particularly the promise of strengthening health infrastructure and building a more equitable system. Let's speak to Linda Dunkley, who is the Managing Director at Community Development Nonprofit Riza Babuyile. Good morning to you, Linda, and thank you for your time. Just in by way of telling us a bit more about Riza Babuyile and the work that you do, nurse-based community work, I imagine that you are at the front line of seeing where the gaps are in access to quality healthcare. So tell us what you do and how that exposes you to those gaps in access and affordability of healthcare.
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and thank you for having me this morning. I think, yes, our program, we focus specifically on a nursepreneur model, which enables us to place clinics, nurse-led clinics in the township that fully integrate with provincial departments of health. We partner with private funders in order to balance paying and subsidize patients in order for us to maintain sustainability. So we want to provide access. We want to assist government in alleviating the overcrowdedness in the public spaces and the long waiting times. So access and affordability to primary healthcare is definitely at our core and of extreme importance to us. We believe that together with government, we can scale this model and really create a future and deliver on the promises that Cyril Ramaphosa has laid before us, and that we work together to engage with him on.
So we say that your model is nurse-based. What does that say about the need in communities to have access to healthcare without spending? Some communities, some people don't have the benefit of medical aid and being able to go directly to a GP, but there remains this need for early detection of ailments and early treatment thereof.
100%. I think that, as you've said, there is a very large need. And I think if we can define the sector where we can particularly play a role, it is in the upcoming working class that are, earning money, and then that allows us, it does not allow them entry into having, the public health piece. And they do not have the affordability to go the private medical aid route. These clinics, we focus particularly on affordability so that we are not charging the private, doctor rates. We are nurse-led, and therefore we are focusing on early treatment so that we don't get you to that stage and incurring those costs. I think also if you think about long waiting times, if we can speed up access, if we can enable people in our communities to come to our clinics, engage with our nurses, develop long-standing relationships with our nurses, that all lends itself to sustainability and focus on affordable healthcare. We truly do believe that this is a way that government can achieve its objective to provide access and affordability for healthcare to the millions.
And of course, Linda, the backdrop to it all is the conversation around the national health insurance and universal access being the ideal that is being pursued. And at the moment, we're seeing certain aspects of the NHI Act being put in abeyance pending the resolution of a number of disputes by the Constitutional Court. Talk to me about that, about what Budget 2026, what opportunity it presents for addressing the financing models in the context of the NHI.
The NHI is definitely a long-term policy reform that government is striving to improve on. And I think that the delays that have come about in the rollout and the implementation of NHI should not stop us from making strides towards providing healthcare and providing access to this healthcare. Government has a large task in understanding or providing a solution around how we are going to fund this. And potentially one of the ways that we can look to alleviate in the short term or to provide a bridging methodology or a bridging solution is that perhaps government can fund what is already working on the ground. They can assist us with the models that are already working, so that we can really deliver on the promise of access to NHI. So there are clinics in existence. We need to follow through on that methodology, deliver to the communities, deliver to the people, as in the short term. For government to roll out, and to build brand new clinics comes at an enormous cost. If there are already clinics that are in existence, or we can look at a co-financing possibility through the collaboration of government and private sector, then we really can achieve the goal that is both affordable to government in the short term. If we are delaying the rollout of NHI, those delays further compound our costs down the line. And it is important for us to take action and to take steps now so that we can deliver in a small way on the promises, and we can start providing access to and affordability to healthcare.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your insights. That's Linda Dunkley, who is Managing Director at the Community Development Non-Profit Organization, Riza Babuyile.
In life's most challenging moments of loss, compassion can be your greatest comfort. You shouldn't have to face the financial burden of losing a loved one by yourself. Rest assured, Clientele's funeral plans pay out cash within 24 hours. You can cover up to 13 family members on one plan, ensuring all your loved ones are taken care of, and 3 children are covered at no additional cost. With Clientele, you are not just buying a plan, you are also buying peace of mind. When the time comes, you will need to make important calls with your 200 Rand airtime you will receive when you claim. Plans offer double accidental death cover as well as a transport, grocery and unveiling benefit. Apply today, it's easy. There are no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Here's one to seriously consider avoiding. The R21 going into Pretoria, the lights are out at Fountain Circle. That's a really big queue. Once you get sort of north of the exits at Monument Park, then you're in trouble. There's nowhere to go but to queue up past Buttercliff Golf Course and that will past the estate and up into that Fountain Circle area. There's also another set of lights out as you branch after a Fountain Circle onto Elandsport, up passing Unisa. So some additional delays there as well. Also, crash sheet on the N4 near Rousseau Street. This is the N4 Emalafeni Highway. Quite slow both directions going to Pretoria or heading out towards Bronkhorstspruit side. The roadworks on the Mike 1 South this morning down by Caller Drive have caused fairly slow traffic. It is starting to ease through Midrand but stays busy all the way down through to Buccleuch and then down through Woodmead, Sandton and into that Melrose area. Getting into Sandton quite heavy as well. I think a lot of people have avoided the Mike 1. Instead, they're on Rivonia Road. So coming from Rivonia down through Morningside and then down into Grayson stays heavy. Mike 1, Boysons to Empire and the M2 from Benrose into Crown. Both of those highways stay very heavy this morning. And a breakdown on the N12 near Craft Road. Still slowing traffic coming through from Jet Park Road. Durban easing up. We reported clear conditions before between Umgeta Road and Spaghetti Junction. That's all cleared up. Fields Hill and the Richmond Road crash. That's all out of the way. There is a breakdown or in fact it's a crash just around Cliffdale, so going up towards Pietermaritzburg, traffic starting to push a queue back as far as Key Ridge area. And if driving into Cape Town, a crash on the M1 inbound at Durban Road, that's causing a delay coming through from Okavango Road at Brackenfell, and also a big fat queue on the R300 North coming up from Van Riebeeck Road, trying to get into that N1 towards the crash sheet. Also, the M5 stays busy coming through from Kenilworth towards a busy N2 into Hospital Bend. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, quite a bit to chew on then from the conversations we've had this morning. Let's do exactly that. Let me start with, I want to start with one that has to do with the conversation we had with Equal Education about the trends of the so-called compulsory donations, which was pointed out to be a contradiction in terms. Contributions to items in the school environment that are increasingly, we're told, being enforced, particularly in no-fee schools, with the result that they are somewhat contributing to exclusion of pupils in schools. And Equal Education links that directly to the austerity measures, the so-called fiscal consolidation that has hit education budgets in the provinces hard. Someone wants to comment on that.
Hi, Tulas. It's Sharon from Durban. My daughter's schools, they raise funds themselves. They have neon market nights, sitting movie nights on the lawn. So they have like about 8 fundraisers a year, and the parents of the school supported, so they kind of raise funds on their own.
Yeah, makes sense. Perfect sense in those communities where, where that is possible, where the levels of income suggest that that is something you can do. A lot of schools are engaging in that. But remember the realities across the country. There are schools in communities where even if you were to do a fundraiser, at best you might raise 200 Rand because, that's all everyone in that particular area has to spare. And then what? It's a great initiative, totally encouraged, but it shouldn't absolve the authorities of needing to fund education at the appropriate level. I'm curious what this person wants to say about stadium management, so I'm going to hear them out. What's that about?
Good morning, Tulas. Can you please help us and get someone from stadium management to explain why the tickets are not scanning on the turnstiles at FNB? Same thing happened on Wednesday last week and last night again. And on Saturday, we are having the Soweto Derby. Can you please assist before we experience another stampede?
That's a great suggestion. And I'm waving. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, you'll see me waving my arms, flailing my arms around, trying to get the attention of the producers to say this is a great suggestion. We should talk to stadium management ahead of the big Soweto Derby. And if you're saying that there's anything like that, we have past history and experience, we should have dealt with those issues. Just their own preparations as well for the big Derby day. Let me end it off with 2 messages about the budget that will be delivered by Minister Enoch Godongwana.
Morning, Tulas. It's Chris in Cambertown. On this budget day, I really want to hear the minister. What is he going to do with the ever-growing backlog of infrastructure maintenance in all the major cities? How is he going to ring-fence the funds so that they are not misspent elsewhere by municipalities, but instead fix the critical infrastructure that is crumbling and chasing away investments? Great show as always.
Good morning, Pratulas Mbongo Sundisa Mbuyisa here. Pratulas, Enoch Godongwana is not a good gentleman for that position. He must do away with SRD grant and replace it with a basic income grant. And then Home Affairs must work together with SASSA. There are a lot of foreigners who are getting grant. Now you can see they managed to buy citizenship and documents from Home Affairs, which means a lot of them are getting these grants. They must work together, man, with Home Affairs and do away with this corruption. Thanks, Pratulas.
Chris and Mbongo, thank you for that. Great contributions that highlight the spectrum of issues to be dealt with in our national life that the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana must then grapple with and see how he balances the books when he delivers the budget a bit later on. Let me go to the calls. Ali in Tsanin, good morning to you.
Yes, good morning to Thulasizwe. I'm now in Kempton Park, but
in Kempton Park, yeah?
Yes, all the way from Parare village in Zanen. Thulas, thanks for taking my call. I have a problem. We had the Zondo Commission, which it was doing very, very, very well. And then now there's Madlanga Commission, which is also doing well. Now, the problem is, from the Zondo Commission, how many people that were implicated in wrongdoing were arrested? How many?
Yep.
And then, yes, I'm saying, how many people from the Zondo Commission who were implicated in wrongdoing were arrested? Is it only me and you, Thulas, who are poor, who have to go behind bars when we find to be in a wrong side of the law? Now, here is Madlanga Commission. I see something that it is not right when it comes to the public money. We are wasting money for something that we know that there's nothing that is going to happen, because Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has done very, very well in exposing these people who are doing wrong things. But I'm telling you, there are no one who's going to be arrested. Maybe, just maybe, Thulas, maybe Brown Mkhosi, because that man, I tell you, is a liar. He can lie, eh?
Yeah.
Brown Mkhosi is a lie. You know, if he was my son, I should have sold him. I don't know where.
Sold him.
Long ago.
Oh,
He's a liar. That man is a liar. So without wasting any time, Thulas, I'm saying, and I'm frustrated as to where are we going with these commissions.
You're not alone, Ali. I think a lot of people have expressed that frustration and that sense of skepticism, even cynicism about these processes, to say, well, we undertake these great processes and then what? And everyone really understands what the context and backdrop is. Zola in Bloemfontein, let me end it off with you. Good morning.
Mguni, njani baba?
Ngiyaphila kunjani baba? Please go ahead.
Ngiyaphila. Yebo. Mguni, in the Free State, like Bloemfontein, there are schools whereby every month, twice a month, the kids are requested to wear private, and they bring 20 rands for private. And then no one is held accountable for that money. The principal is the one who will say that. When they don't bring 20 rands, it's a penalty. So I think the department must do something, especially in Mangaung, to find out what happens to that money. And then lastly, Mguni, without wasting time, Omejuli Sikikaba must be ashamed of himself. He's a portfolio chairperson in Parliament, but he's applying for legal aid. That is very bad. He's got money. He's getting paid every month. People cannot afford lawyers, cannot be assisted, but he is claiming from Parliament for being a chairperson in the portfolio committee of the military. So shame on him.
He's applying for legal aid. I missed that bit of detail. In which case? In the case where he's been appearing in court?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And
I'll read up about it and then we can engage on it. I suspect he probably wouldn't meet the threshold for legal aid in the traditional sense. It's all good, Zola. I think I'm out of time, but thank you for flagging it. It's something for me to check on so that when you and I engage again, I'm more clued up on it. I must have missed it. All right, that's where we come to the end of today's edition of the Morning Brief. Thank you for listening and thank you for your robust engagement as always. Do keep it going in that spirit with Kathy Motlatlana and the team on The Talking Point. And that's coming up after the news at 9 with Ann Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Hawks KZN raid drug dens in Chatsworth, and Godongwana urged to prioritise funding for healthcare employment. Good morning. The Hawks in KwaZulu-Natal are raiding various drug dens at different locations in Chatsworth, south of Durban. It's believed law enforcement have been monitoring the locations for about a year. The drugs allegedly belong to known syndicates whom the Hawks claim they've been investigating. This is a developing story and will bring you more updates as it unfolds.